Chapter 1120. That night, Ting returned home. After hearing about the cold treatment Tongning received at the hospital, he comforted her. Take it slow. After all, he's a hopeless person. It's hard to pull him back. If he wants to think, you can't stop him. You should meet him sooner. That way his talent won't be buried. After hearing this, Ting stretched out his hand and grabbed onto Tongning's chin as he asked seductively, "Who do you think you should meet sooner?" Tongning was a little surprised before she realized that Ting's vinegar jar had been knocked over. "President Mo, you can't be that petty, right? What do you think?" Tongning did not respond. She simply moved her hand from his waist to Ting's upper body and ran her fingers across his muscular chest. "Are you still angry? Not sincere enough," Ting commented in a low voice before he carried Tongning into the kitchen. "Why aren't we going to the bedroom?" Tongning exclaimed as she was placed on the sink. "The bedroom is too far away. Don't you think?" Huh. They were already an old couple, so there was no need to be shy. Of course, to prevent the two little devils from entering the kitchen, Ting locked the door from the inside. In order to not let out any sounds, Tongning controlled herself. She had no choice but to comply with this man. Even though he had asked for it countless times, she was still willing. Afterwards, it was already late at night. After their passionate session, Tongning fell asleep in Ting's arms. Ting carried his beloved wife back to the bedroom in satisfaction. He then headed into the bathroom to help her freshen up before placing her on the bed and letting her sleep. Afterwards, he tidied himself up and headed downstairs to take care of the three kids to make sure they weren't mischievous. But just as he was about to go to bed, he noticed a missed call on Tongning's phone. Seeing it was Wuxia, Ting quietly replied, "What's up?" "President, the madam told me to keep an eye on Baijun. I never expected that he would actually slit his wrist again in the middle of the night. He's currently being treated." "Which hospital are you at right now?" Ting asked. "Beijing Hospital. Make sure you keep it a secret. I'll be right there." Perhaps, Baijun thought it was ridiculous that Tongning went to look for Baijun. After all, he admired art. In other words, deep down he would never accept that a woman could save him and give him a new opportunity. But if it was a man, perhaps things would be different. So after lowering his head to kiss Tongning, Ting changed his clothes and left the house. As usual, he was dressed in a retro-striped suit. He looked dignified and tall. After Ting arrived at the hospital, Wuxia immediately brought him to Baijun's room. He had just been rescued. As soon as he saw Ting enter, he sneered. "Another one. This time, the person that's coming is even more extraordinary." Ting did not say a word. He simply walked over to the window and said to Baijun, "Your daughter wouldn't want you to do this." "How would President Mo know?" "Because I also have a daughter." Ting replied. "I'm just curious. It's the middle of the night. Why aren't you resting with your wife at home? Why did you come to my ward?" "She's indeed asleep, but I received a phone call saying that you tried to commit suicide again. So, I decided to come and have a look. From what I can remember, you are the first man that has lived like a sissy," Ting commented. "If you continue to seek death, I won't stop you. But, you can find a quiet place and slowly enjoy the feeling of death. Just don't let my wife see it. Otherwise, she will continue to save you. Did you think that your cynicism would allow you to leave behind a legacy? But in reality, no one in this world will remember you. You can die in peace. In the end, no one will even claim your corpse." After hearing Ting's words, Baijun laughed. "I've realized that the two of you are quite interesting. One wants me to live, while the other wants me to die. I simply don't want her to waste her energy on someone that's about to die. In that case, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to die." Baijun said angrily. "Tongning's going to look for a director, right? I'm going to be her director and snatch her over. Do you want me to die even more? As a director, you're not bad. But my wife is straight and doesn't like women. Especially not sissy women." After saying this, Ting left the room. Baijun wanted to say a few more words, but Ting did not give him the chance. As a man, Ting's lifestyle was probably the envy of all men. He had turned himself into the king of the entertainment industry. So the fact that Bai Junyi was able to talk to him like that was quite a good feeling. Plus, according to Mo Ting, Tongning must have sent people to keep an eye on him to prevent him from committing suicide. In order to find a director, Tongning was willing to disregard the consequences. But he was someone that sold his art. It would be strange if he was interested in sci-fi. Plus, there were so many popular and reputable directors in the industry. Why didn't Tongning choose any of them over a poor young man like him? This taste could be considered to be very tricky. But no matter what, it was quite interesting to tease the couple. It was scary. His life only had this little bit of fun. But as long as he was alive, he still had a pile of debts waiting to be paid. Thinking of this, he wanted to die again. Tongning had no idea that Mo Ting had also seen Bai Junyi. The next morning, after preparing breakfast for the family, she returned to the bedroom to find Mo Ting still asleep. She was quite confused. He was usually very disciplined, so why hadn't he woken up yet? She thought Mo Ting was sick, but he was simply too tired from the night before. Plus, he was already awake. I thought you had a cold again, so I was about to check your temperature. Mo Ting sat up and shook his head. Give Luce a phone call first. Mo Ting sat up and shook his head. Let's give Luce a call first and postpone the video conference. Okay, hurry and wash up. Tongning picked up Mo Ting's phone. Just as she was about to give Luce a phone call, she suddenly heard cries coming from downstairs. Tongning quickly ran downstairs, only to find the two brothers lying on the ground with Mo Zishi on top of Mo Zichin. Both of them were in pain from the fall. Mo Zishi burst into tears, while his younger brother did not make a sound. But because Mo Zichin was lying on his side, his left cheekbone was left with a bloody cut. Tongning was so frightened that she immediately yelled upstairs. Ting, hurry, Zichin's injured. As soon as Mo Ting heard this, he immediately rushed his son to the hospital. Luckily, the cut wasn't deep. But even so, he still needed a few stitches. It was possible that it would leave a permanent scar on Mo Zichin's face. It's all my fault. Despite all the precautions I took, I still couldn't completely eliminate the danger. Tongning blamed herself as she looked at her son's injured face. You're already careful enough. Mo Ting comforted. Perhaps, no one would have known that this incident had nothing to do with Mo Zichin. Mo Zichin simply laid down when he saw Mo Zishi fall backwards, allowing his brother to fall on top of him. Chapter 11:21. But Mo Zichin's injury wasn't as simple as Tongning thought. Soon, his left eye began to fill with blood. So, Tongning had no choice but to call the doctor for a second examination. A foreign object has entered the baby's eye and caused damage to his retina. If the situation worsens, he may lose his vision in his left eye, so he may need to receive treatment for a while. He's still so young. Tongning was stunned by the doctor's words. Mrs. Mo, since you've encountered him, you can only relax and let him receive treatment, the pediatrician comforted. Tongning turned around and looked at Mo Ting anxiously. Everything was fine at first. How did this happen all of a sudden? He's still so young. If I had taken good care of him, this wouldn't have happened. Mo Ting could sense Tongning's anxiety, so he quickly patted her on the back and comforted. Zichin will be fine. Look at him, he hasn't cried a single time. That's right. It's strange. If a normal child was injured this badly, they would have burst into tears by now. Yet he hasn't cried or thrown a tantrum. The doctor looked at Mo Zichin with a confused expression. He doesn't look like he's particularly sensitive to pain. But because Mo Zichin didn't cry or throw a tantrum, Tongning's heart tightened even more. It's all my fault. I can't even take care of him properly. Seeing Tongning blaming herself, Mo Ting suddenly felt a sense of regret. Perhaps, he shouldn't have wanted a child. He was well aware of Tongning's personality. She viewed him and the child as more important than her own life. So she placed all the blame on herself for Zichin's injury. Moreover, she was really frightened, wasn't she? With this thought, Mo Ting gave Bai Lihua and Xia Yuling a phone call. Mom, Zichin has suffered a minor injury. Can you take him to the Tang family home and take care of him? What happened? Xia Yuling asked curiously. What injury? Is it serious? Just come and pick him up. Okay, let's head to the hospital right away. As soon as Xia Yuling heard that her grandson had been injured, she was so anxious that she forgot about her work and picked up by Li Hua as the two in-laws arrived at the hospital. "Mom, why are you here?" Seeing this, Tongming immediately stood up from her chair to greet her parents. "What are you talking about? One of my friends saw you at the hospital and said that Zichen was injured, so of course we rushed over." Xia Yuling looked at Tongming in a slightly blaming manner. "Since Li Hua and I have a lot of time on our hands, we will take care of Zichen. Zishi will come with us too. Just keep an eye on Yin Air." "Mom, what? Are you looking down on us?" Xia Yuling pretended to be strong. "You just need to visit your son every week. It's decided." "Xiaoning, don't blame your mother for being stubborn. But she is truly thinking for your sake. Look at yourself, Zichen is still a child. It's normal for him to get hurt. Yet look at yourself. Zichen is still a child, so it's normal for him to get hurt. Yet, why are you so worried? You place too much importance on the child and emoting. If you have time, you should think more about yourself. Brother Zichen will take care of him. Don't worry. When they are a little older, you can take them back and take care of them. That way, we won't have to run back and forth every day. You take good care of Yenner. Daughters are closer to their mothers." "Mom, that's settled then. Don't worry, Mom can guarantee that Zichen's eyes will return to normal." Tongming didn't have much room to refute. She simply looked at Emoting helplessly. Emoting stretched out his hand and patted her on the head like he was trying to give her some strength. "Trust me." "Okay then." After temporarily taking the children away and not seeing them, Tongming wouldn't feel so guilty. If Tongming didn't feel guilty, then he wouldn't feel heartache. Seeing the helpless look on Tongming's face, his heart felt like it was being stabbed by needles. Sometimes, when a person's love seeped deep into their bones, they could affect everything. This was all because the influence they had on each other was simply too shocking. It didn't take long before Zichen received his first treatment. His eyes were covered with bandages, but he did not cry or make a fuss. It was like nothing had happened. Afterwards, Bai Lihua and Xia Yuling picked up the two children and left for Emoting to comfort Tongming. No matter how strong Tongming was to the outside world, she was still a mother. After returning home, Tongming stared at her two sons' beds in a daze. Could it be that someone as stubborn as her couldn't even take care of her children? Look at yourself right now. How can you keep your children company? You're feeling guilty towards Zichen, so you're going to ignore your concern for Zishi. As time goes by, the two kids will feel that you're being unfair. So let Mom take the kids away. They won't mistreat us. Tongming turned around and hugged Emoting. "I know you asked Mom to take the kids away." Emoting froze. "I also know that you're afraid that I'll feel guilty. I don't know what's wrong with me, but when it comes to you and the kids, I can't control my worry. You must be feeling bad too. The more I feel guilty, the more you blame yourself. You can't let me be like this. I know you've been through a lot, and you're feeling worse than me, but you've never said anything. I'm used to it," Emoting comforted. "You're too tense. It's fine, Zichen will get better. Trust me, okay?" At this moment, Tongming suddenly found the courage to peek out from Emoting's embrace and say, "I'm fine now." "You're pretending to be strong, silly woman." Emoting couldn't do anything to her. To distract her, Emoting woke up the sleeping Yin Air and handed it to Tongming to seduce. He wanted her to regain her confidence as a mother. Afterwards, he stayed up all night to edit the script for The Ant Queen 2, one last time and handed it to Tongming the next morning. "Have a look." Before Tongming had time to feel sad, she saw the complete script of The Ant Queen 2. Afterwards, Emoting returned to the office. But as soon as he arrived, he fell asleep on his desk. As soon as Lu Che walked in and saw Emoting sleeping, he did not continue to disturb him. Instead, he gently closed the door behind him and told the staff not to enter. Who else could make Moting work so hard? There was only one Tongming in this world. Afterwards, Lu Che gave Tongming a phone call to check on Emoting. "Madam, did the president stay up all night?" "What's wrong?" "He slept in his office the entire day. I didn't dare to disturb him." Tongming looked at the script in her hands and finally realized what Emoting had done for her. Chapter 1122. That night, Mo Ting woke up in one of Hai Rui's waiting rooms to find Tang Ning sitting at the head of the bed. She smiled at him. "You're awake." "I didn't. I asked Lu Che to carry you onto the bed. Even so, you didn't wake up." Tang Ning laughed bitterly as she waved the script in her hands. Tang Ning gave a bitter laugh as she shook the script in her hand. "Because of this, you didn't sleep at all. It's not as exaggerated as you make it sound. How was it? Have you finished reading it?" Mo Ting tried to divert Tang Ning's attention. "It's because you said you wanted to add Senior Long, and it's going to be a teacher-student story. This script isn't as important as you. Don't suffer like this for me in the future. If you can't handle it anymore and get tired because of this, what do you expect me to do?" "I won't," Mo Ting assured as he hugged her. "I won't ever." Tang Ning did not continue to pester him. She simply returned home with Mo Ting, and they cooked dinner together. After taking care of their daughter, they curled up on the sofa and began to discuss the plot of the Ant Queen 2. "I think your script is already complete. But you still need to add a few more things." "Add what?" "Add an antagonist. What do you think about playing the antagonist this time? I'm sure you'll look very sexy as the antagonist," Tang Ning said. After hearing this, Mo Ting felt a little doting and helpless. Didn't they agree that he wouldn't be taking part in the second film? From the looks of it, he had fallen into another trap. But the main problem was that they hadn't successfully invited a new director yet. Speaking of Bai Juni, Tang Ning wasn't sure what his current situation was. The couple discussed a few details before Tang Ning gave Xia Yuling a phone call to check on Zichen. Of course, the two mothers took good care of him. Tang Ning returned to Bai Juni's hospital the next day. But when she arrived, Bai Juni was already packing his luggage to be discharged. "Have you thought it through? Life is but a drop in the ocean," Bai Juni replied. "Thank you for helping me pay off my loan. I will find a way to pay you back. Are you still not planning to sign a contract with me? The script is out, and everything is ready. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to you. Perhaps you asked me to film a film to make the creditor think that Tang Ning was interested in me, and that I might be of some use. So he promised me that if I could film a good sci-fi film for him, he would let bygones be bygones. What do you think?" Tang Ning was suddenly speechless as she looked at Bai Juni. "Since all of you think I can do it, I'll give it a try. Who knows, I might really become famous and surpass you." After speaking, Bai Juni put his luggage on his back and whispered in her ear, "I hope you find a director that you're satisfied with." Just like that, Tang Ning watched as Bai Juni left. She couldn't do anything because Bai Juni was completely unruly. He couldn't be controlled by anyone. Despite her repeated invitations, Bai Juni was not moved at all. Now that things had come to this, what else could she do? Soon, Springfall officially announced that they would be filming the first film in the sci-fi series Parasite. The film would be directed by Bai Juni, and the international superstar Fan Di would be the main lead. As soon as the announcement was made, it immediately attracted the attention of the film industry. Tang Ning's success with the Ant Queen made everyone realize that Beijing's sci-fi industry was still a blank slate. Springfall wasn't fooling around either. From the screenwriter to the actors, they went through a strict selection process before they finally made the decision. This meant that the sci-fi industry was about to enter a new era. However, according to rumors online, Tang Ning had previously invited Bai Juni to direct The Ant Queen 2, but he chose to direct Parasite instead. This confused the public. Wasn't The Ant Queen more attractive? This Bai Juni doesn't know how to appreciate your kindness. I can't believe you treated him so well, and even President Mo went to look for him. What a waste. Long Jie was furious after hearing about this. Is there something wrong with this man's brain? He owes the other party a debt, so it's only natural for him to repay it this way, Tang Ning replied. Besides, it was his personal choice. He didn't do anything wrong. How could you speak up for him? I'm not speaking up for him. This Bai Juni is definitely not an unscrupulous person. But there's no suitable director right now. What are you going to do? Why don't you do it yourself? After hearing Long Jie's excited suggestion, Tang Ning shook her head. Although I've been learning from Jones for a few months, I'm still a newbie. Before this, I didn't even have any work to my name. You didn't act before you became an actress either, did you? What else could you do? You don't think anyone else is suitable. Now that sci-fi films were starting to gain competition, it was good for the industry as a whole. As long as it was a good film, it didn't matter if it was a healthy competition. Plus, making Tongning feel threatened was also a form of motivation. Let me think about it a little more. The quality of the director determined the success or failure of a film. Thinking of this, Tongning wished that Xiao Sun was still alive. How great would that be? How excited would he be to see that there was competition? The sci-fi that he loved was now being valued by the public. After hearing that Bai Jinni had been snatched away, Emoting comforted Tongning. It's not that bad. You still have a lot of options. I know that the top directors in the country are all great in their own ways. It's not that I don't think they're capable, I simply feel that every director has something that they're good at. If they can't film the film that they're good at, it would be a waste of their talent. Look at Xiao Sr. Take your time and you'll eventually find a suitable one. In reality, Emoting's desk already had plenty of information on directors. But, because of the slump in the Chinese sci-fi industry, not many directors had experience in this area. So, the reason why Tongning chose Bai Jinni was because he had a wildness to his films. This was something that Tongning liked and no one else had. But the director had already been signed. Even though he was the big boss of the entertainment industry, he couldn't break the rules of the industry. So with Bai Jinni joining the competition, Tongning felt a lot of pressure. The Ant Queen 1 foot had Xiao Senator, but without him, Tongning was like a bird without wings. Although the audience acknowledged Nziheo's abilities in the second half of The Ant Queen 2, he still needed to put in a lot of effort. Could The Ant Queen 2 continue to be as exciting as The Ant Queen 2? This was the question that everyone was most concerned about. How could Tongning overcome her own limitations? Chapter 11:23. Parasite boasted that it had a bigger cast than The Ant Queen. It had a huge investment, famous actors, a famous screenwriter, and a luxurious production. Coupled with a strong promotional campaign, it also showed its sincerity in Beijing. From the looks of it, The Ant Queen was indeed aiming to surpass The Ant Queen. So, it received a lot of attention from film fans. Back when Tongning and Xiao Sun first produced The Ant Queen, the conditions were difficult to begin with. It wasn't easy for sci-fi films to rise to prominence, but now, they couldn't strike while the iron was hot and continue the popularity of The Ant Queen. All they could do was watch as others took advantage of the situation. Tongning lost Xiao Sun, and this was a regret that she couldn't make up for. As a result, the development of The Ant Queen 2 became a lot more limited. She had all kinds of actors and directors to choose from. But, Tongning refused to settle for anything else. Afterwards, Bai Jinni sent someone over to deliver the money he owed Tongning. At the same time, he gave her a piece of advice. The person in charge of Springfall seems to have something to do with Hai Rui. Be careful. Consider this a favor. What Bai Jinni was trying to say was that Springfall was targeting Hai Rui. It was as if they were trying to take over. Tongning relayed Bai Jinni's words to Emoting and asked if he remembered something like this. After hearing this, Emoting immediately picked up the intercom on his desk. Come in, Lu Che. President, what are your orders? Go investigate Springfall's background and find out who it used to be. Emoting instructed. Okay, I'll get to it right away, Lu Che said as he left the office. As for finding a director, there's no need to rush. Back then, The Ant Queen was made because it was an emergency. But now we have the power to speak, so we don't need to panic just because someone announces something. The growth of sci-fi films is a good thing for the industry, Emoting said calmly. There's no rush. You can take your time to find a suitable candidate. Okay. Do you have time to visit your son at the Tang family home? Okay, Emoting nodded. Tongning wasn't in a rush to film The Ant Queen 2. But before she confirmed the meaning behind Bai Jinni's words, she was a little worried. What she didn't notice was that the production crew of Parasite had already contacted the Glory team. The post-production team that Tongning had personally trained in the past had contributed immeasurably to The Ant Queen. But people always wanted to climb higher. As long as the conditions were good enough, they would choose to jump ship. If they followed the procedures, there was nothing Tang Ning could do. Worst of all, Tang Ning found out about this from Long Jia. Springfall contacted the entire Glory team and offered a sky-high price. They were willing to provide the best post-production for Parasite. Tang Ning immediately contacted the person in charge of the team. Back when they were in the US, they had fought together despite the difficulties. But now, for the sake of their own interests, they were willing to betray her and Xiao Sen? However, the team were too ashamed to face Tang Ning again. So they generously handed over their compensation and turned to leave. As soon as the news was released, it immediately caused an uproar. After all, the public was equally surprised by the amount of effort Tang Ning had put in to create this team. Above all, Tang Ning was considered a towering green. Why did these birds choose another tree? Job hopping was common in every industry. Everyone in the industry moved around. But Tang Ning didn't have a director or a post-production team. How was she going to produce The Ant Queen 2? The Glory team publicly thanked Tang Ning for training them. Wasn't this the same as rubbing salt into Tang Ning's wounds? As soon as Long Jia heard about this, she almost burst into tears. But Tang Ning remained calm. Aren't you angry? What's done is done. What's the point of being angry? Tang Ning asked. Of course not. Since you've managed to train Glory, you can also train a new team. Since the Ant Queen is already dead, let's put our lives on the line, Mo Ting said as he entered the living room after returning home. We didn't get to this point because we lacked resources. It's just hard to accept being betrayed like this, Long Jia explained. Everyone has their own choices, and everyone has to pay the price for their choices. After speaking, Tang Ning went upstairs to get changed and took Long Jia home. Afterwards, she and Mo Ting headed to the Tang family home to see their son. I have a suggestion, Tang Ning said on the way to the Tang family home. I also have a suggestion, but you go first, Mo Ting replied. If the entire Glory team jumps ship, we need to find a replacement. No, not a replacement, a new team. My idea is we don't need a professional in post-production. We need a computer genius. As you know, there have been a few child prodigies in the past. Although they aren't easy to control, if they jump out of the box, we might be able to receive a different surprise, Tang Ning said calmly. How do we prevent them from jumping ship again? Mo Ting asked. If they want to jump ship, they'll eventually jump ship, Tang Ning replied in a self-mocking manner. But trust me, compared to those that come from a professional background, they definitely have a different view towards money. But trust me, compared to those that come from a professional background, they definitely have a different view towards money. Lu Che just received news that there will be a meet and greet between Glory and Parasite at Dynasty Hotel the day after tomorrow. If you have some time, you should attend and vent your anger. Okay, they're leaving just like that without even saying goodbye. What do they think I am? By the way, what is your suggestion? Actually, Xiao Sen's style can be continued, Mo Ting replied. Someone contacted me this morning and said that if you don't mind, she can come and direct the Ant Queen too. Who? Xiao Sen's daughter, Miss Xiao, Mo Ting replied. Over the years, she's been influenced by Xiao Sen and has already taken Xiao Sen's ideas to heart. Plus, even though she didn't study directing, she's a great photographer and has shot a lot of award-winning short films. Are you willing to trust her? Of course. Tang Ning's tears almost rolled out of her eyes. She felt like Xiao Sen had come back to life. In that case, you should meet up as soon as possible. This is probably the best news I've received so far, Tang Ning suddenly said excitedly. Look at you. Although there were a lot of twists and turns, God always made up for it. As long as she didn't give up, there was always a chance to turn things around. By the way, has Lu Che found out anything about the previous owner of Springfall? Chapter 1124. I'm currently investigating, Mo Ting replied simply, but his expression was unfathomable. For Lu Che to spend so much time investigating, it was obvious how difficult the matter was. In that case, we need to be careful. After the couple returned to the Tang family home, they met up with little one-eyed Mo Zichen. Sandwiched amongst a group of relatives, His eyebrows were furrowed, and he looked exactly like an old man. He did not have the pampering aura a child of his age should have. On the other hand, Emozishi and Tang Xian's daughter were having a lot of fun. Meanwhile, Emozishi was hiding in one corner with an expression that told the whole world to ignore him. It seemed he did not care about the adults teasing. "You're here." Elder Tang looked at the couple happily. Now that he was retired, he enjoyed playing with his grandchildren and living a carefree and relaxed life. "These two little devils didn't bring you any trouble, did they? I was afraid that you would take them away." Elder Tang loved his two grandchildren to the bone, especially Emozichen. He was so young, yet he did not cry or make a fuss. It was like he had the thoughts of an adult. It was very interesting. "That's good." Tongning looked at her two sons. Even though she was their mother, she still couldn't hug her own sons. There were so many people in the house. Even if everyone waited for a few minutes, it would still take half an hour before it was her turn. She couldn't help but feel a little jealous. "I've seen quite a bit of news about you on the entertainment news. Are you okay?" Elder Tang took the opportunity to ask Tongning during dinner. Seeing that they did not respond, he laughed. "Perhaps it's because I'm getting old and have become used to breaking and reuniting. So I've become immune to job hopping amongst the young. There's bound to be separation between people, not to mention a partnership based on money. Even if you and Mo Ting love each other, you will eventually leave this world one after another. So do what you need to do. Don't get angry over irrelevant people and small matters. Understand?" "Yes, I understand, grandfather," Tongning replied. "It's not a big deal that can be resolved. I know how capable my granddaughter and grandson-in-law are. You should all know that the Tang family will always have your back. Of course, I also hope that you will never need to use it." It meant there was nothing that Tongning and Mo Ting couldn't solve. "Thank you very much, Grandpa. Jingxian has worked hard. Even the foreigners are full of praise for his new perfume. The Tang family's business is getting better and better. This is all because of you young people." For some reason, Elder Tang was more talkative than usual that night. Ever since she was young, Tongning had never experienced the love of a grandfather. Tonight, she finally felt that she had a great-grandfather. "Sis, lend me your nephew to play with for a couple of days. I want Qingyan to learn how to take care of the kids." Tang Jingxian truly loved the twins. "My child is not a toy." That night, the Tang family was filled with laughter. But Mo Zichen still had a serious expression on his face. All that was missing was a grunt. This kind of little Meng Bao, of course, won the love of the whole family. With Elder Tang's encouragement, Tongning seemed to gain more energy. This was the strength of her family. "After I prepare the information, I will go look for Miss Chiao on the island. I'm confident that we can do even better." This was one of the strengths of Tongning that Mo Ting loved the most. Because no matter what she did and no matter what difficulties she faced, she would never give up. No matter how difficult it was, she would persevere. 2 days later, the crew of Parasite met up with the post-production team at Dynasty Hotel. Faced with the team that had jumped ship from Tongning's side, the crew naturally cheered. "You guys are amazing. The post-production team of The Ant Queen is the best out of all the domestically produced sci-fi films. You guys aren't bad." "I know, right? You guys jumped ship from Tongning's side. You have a temper. Tongning is just a woman. What can she possibly do?" The Ant Queen was all a stroke of luck. If she wants to do something big, she should choose to do it in a place with a lot of men. Don't you agree? "I agree." The entire Glory team were flushed with anger from the ridicule of the crew. But Bai Junyi sat in the crowd without saying a word. Occasionally, he would even let out a laugh. Betrayal was betrayal. What was there to praise? At this time, a waiter suddenly entered the VIP room and said, "Gentlemen, someone has already paid for your bill tonight. So if you need anything else, feel free to let us know." "Who is it? That nice?" The scriptwriter of Parasite turned and asked the waitress. "Invite her out so we can thank her in person." "I'll go invite her out right now. Please wait a moment." "Who could be so generous? Is it the boss?" Everyone whispered amongst themselves. Soon, the door was pushed open by a waiter and Tongning, dressed in a white suit, stepped into the room. As soon as everyone saw her, they were shocked. Especially the people from Glory. They immediately lowered their heads, too afraid to look at her. I was wondering who it was. So it's our superstar Tang. When my team left, they didn't even say a word. So I've come to send them off today, Tongning said with a smile. Consider it a token of my appreciation as the previous boss. Miss Tang, you're too polite, the editor continued to laugh. In reality, the alcohol had kicked in. Since we've gone through thick and thin together, I would like to propose a toast to everyone from Glory. I wish you all the best in the future. After speaking, Tongning grabbed a glass of champagne from the waiter and downed 3 glasses in a row. Of course, now that you've arrived at Springfall, don't jump ship. After all, you've already joined a big agency in the country. Where else can you jump ship to? When I left the agency, I didn't even have time to pack my belongings, so I've packed them up for everyone. After all, Glory doesn't keep trash. Miss Tang, are you purposely trying to be sarcastic? The scriptwriter of Parasite asked angrily. Everyone, I think I've already done my best. After all, I didn't hand this matter over to the courts. If I were to use force, I'm afraid Parasite would have to wait 3 years before it sees the light of day again. All I have to do is return the compensation fee, refuse to pay any compensation, and ask the courts to mediate, and they will forever be part of Glory. Leaving is just a matter of lifting my butt, but the price has to be paid. Tongning laughed. Of course, I don't want to keep trash around. After all, I still have a relationship with them. As long as they abide by their responsibilities, I won't take them to the courts. I hope everyone knows what to do. If you continue to be unjust, you'll be doomed. Chapter 1125. To put it simply, Tongning's contract with Glory hadn't been terminated yet. So wasn't Parasite a little too hasty in using these people? Even if they wanted to poach people, they should at least wipe their asses clean before leaving. Yet they were acting so high profile right now. Who were they looking down on? This meal is on me. Have a good time and enjoy yourselves. Consider it a small token of my appreciation. I won't say much else. But I don't think the crew of Parasite should celebrate too early. After all, who knows if my fate will be the same as yours in the future? After saying this, Tongning smiled as she handed her glass to the waiter and turned around in a domineering manner. The people from Glory lowered their heads the entire time because they felt guilty on their conscience. Tongning had spent so much effort on them. Yet now, they had all betrayed her. Anyone in her position would be furious, right? That's enough. Let's not spoil the mood because of a woman. Let's continue drinking. During this time, the crew raised their glasses in an attempt to lighten the atmosphere. But this made the scriptwriter of Parasite place his gaze on the people from Glory with a questioning look. Although I've had a few drinks, I can understand what Tongning is trying to say. In other words, you haven't officially terminated your contract with Tongning, and she has no intention of terminating it. So everything you're doing is illegal, right? That, if Parasite is successfully completed and Tongning goes to court, the film won't be able to be released, right? The people did not respond. This wasn't what they wanted. Who knew that Tongning had a trick up her sleeve? After hearing this, Baijuni couldn't help but laugh out loud. It's not that the other party had a trick up their sleeves, it's a contract. You guys broke the contract first and took advantage of Chunxio's money. That's why you're asking the other party to be kind to you. Baijuni, whose side are you on? The scriptwriter asked arrogantly. I'm not on anyone's side. If you're so capable, then settle their contract. After speaking, Baijuni stood up from his chair and left the boring meal. He never expected that Tongning would be the one to cause trouble. Although there was no way to change the fact that Parasite had been created, she still wanted Springfall's staff to suffer along with her. Not long after, this incident was reported on the internet and newspapers by the reporters. If one were to say that Tongning was taking revenge, it wouldn't be considered as revenge. As the previous boss, it was obviously a decent thing for her to treat them to a farewell party. But for some reason, the audience felt that Tongning was too ruthless. Firstly, it was to vent his anger. Secondly, it was to remind the production team of Parasite not to be so arrogant. Thirdly, It was to curb the development of the Glory team. If you do this, don't blame me for doing the same. If poaching someone from Hyrule was that easy, then was there still a need for rules in the industry? Isn't Tongning's slap a little too beautiful? Not only did he disgust the team from Parasite, he also displayed his magnanimity and disdain towards the Glory team. If it was just a business relationship, it wouldn't be a big deal if the team jumped ship. But Tongning was the one that brought the Glory team up, so it's understandable that she's angry. You're all focused on post-production, but I'm focused on whether the Ant Queen 2 will never see each other again. But after doing what she did, Tongning did not just sit around. She took all the resources she had for the Ant Queen 2 and headed to Private Island to look for Qiao Sen's daughter. I found a lot of sci-fi films in my father's study room. Let's go through them and see if they'll be of any use to the Ant Queen 2. I've already looked through the script and the story is perfect. With the addition of a martial arts superstar, the foreigners will definitely be impressed. But what do you plan to do with post-production? Miss Qiao asked as she put down the documents in her hands. Now that Parasite has caused so much trouble for you, how do you plan to deal with it? I've already dealt with the team that was poached by Springfall, so they're a little hesitant to take action. As long as they're afraid, that's all that matters. I'm currently searching for some prodigies online. I think we might be able to make use of them. Are you saying that we're not looking for professional post-production experts, but computer geniuses? Miss Qiao asked curiously. Of course, there are other requirements as well. For example, we need people who are good at video games or experienced programmers. That way, they'll be able to get into character faster. After all, money isn't the most important thing to them. They love a challenge and excitement. So let's first help us solve the problem with the Ant Queen 2. Then, we'll talk about everything else in the future. Because of the betrayal of the Glory team, Tongning no longer had any plans for the long term. At least, that was how she felt about the Ant Queen. She was going to deal with the Ant Queen 2 first and reconsider when it came time for the Ant Queen 3. When that time came, there might be a new talent waiting to be discovered. Okay, let's focus on the Ant Queen 2 for now. But I need 3 months, Miss Qiao requested. Although cinematography and directing are both related to filming and have some similarities, I still need to learn. Don't worry, I can give you 3 months. Tongning knew that Miss Qiao didn't know how to direct a film, but she trusted that Miss Qiao had the heart to make a sci-fi film. Just like Qiao Sen, her heart was burning with passion. So Tongning was willing to trust her. Not long after, Tongning announced that she was forming a new team, Starlight, and was openly recruiting post-production experts. The first person to find her was a 20-year-old young man. He had just entered university, but because he had played video games since he was a child, he had learned to create a lot of scenes. However, he had never released any of them to the public because his parents didn't support it. But when he heard that Tongning was looking for talented people, he decided to give it a try and fulfill his dream. After seeing the young man's work, Tongning immediately decided to keep him. The public questioned, "Aren't you afraid that Starlight will end up like Glory? Moreover, how can these amateurs surpass professionals?" In response to the public's comments, Tongning responded, "Although Glory is talented, they can't deny my nurturing. So it's not an exaggeration to say that if I can create Glory, then I can create another Starshine." Chapter 11:26. As for what I'm not an amateur, I'm the most amateur of them all. What Tongning meant was that professionals weren't necessarily good enough, and amateurs couldn't compare to professionals. There were plenty of experts amongst the public, but they simply didn't want to show off. Most importantly, she used herself as an example. Whether it was an actress, manager, or producer, she had always been an amateur. But what was the result? Everyone was clear to see. After hearing Tongning's response, the reporters were left speechless. After all, no one was more convincing than Tongning herself. So did the public need to worry about how she was going to develop the Ant Queen 2? There was no need. After all, no matter who suppressed her, Tongning always found a way to survive. Not long after, international martial arts superstar Old Long accepted Tong Ning's invitation to join the Ant Queen too. This caused a lot of fans to be excited. After all, the fact that Tong Ning was able to convince this man to join her was quite impressive. Parasite had a famous actor, but the Ant Queen too wasn't bad either. It even managed to hire an international martial arts superstar. As soon as the netizens saw this news, the internet exploded. It's been years since I've seen Old Long act cool. Haha, martial arts against a mutated monster. This is going to be fun. I wonder what the Ant Queen 2's story is going to be like. I can't wait. Tong Ning was used to turning the tables around. It had already become a part of her daily life. Of course, competition was bound to boost the development of the sci-fi industry. But Springfall was the one that played dirty in the first place, so Tong Ning had no choice but to put a stop to it. However, Lu Che spent a lot of time investigating the previous owner of Springfall. How complicated could it be for you to spend an entire week on it? Mo Ting expressed his dissatisfaction at Lu Che's progress. Lu Che was a little surprised before he handed over the documents in his hands. I'm sorry, President, it took me quite a bit of time. Springfall was established 16 years ago. It's also a well-known company. Get to the point, I already know all this. The most important thing is, this agency was established by a subordinate of the Nangong family. As you know, 22 years ago, the Nangong family was a powerful and complicated family in Beijing. It was the old CEO that sent Elder Nangong to prison. 6 years later, Qiu Jin, a subordinate of the Nangong family, established Springfall and has been biding his time. Recently, rumor has it that the eldest grandson of the Nangong family, Nangong Quan, is returning from the US to take over Springfall. Nangong Quan. Mo Ting had a slight impression of this person. Yes, he was around 5 years older than Mo Ting. When he was just 10 years old, he was already a violent thug. Apparently, he committed a crime in the US and was sent to prison. Who would have thought? His sentence was already over. He was called a nouveau riche. It has been 3 years since he was released from prison. He set up a technology company in the United States and had a woman. However, that woman gave birth to a daughter for him, but she died in childbirth. Since then, he has not found another woman. President, this is the hidden message that Bai Jin gave us. After hearing this, Mo Ting's expression turned a little complicated. He's already back in Beijing? He announced to the public that he's still a few days away. But I think he's already back in Beijing, Lu Che replied. Arrange another bodyguard for Tong Ning to protect her. Since he's here to seek revenge, there's nothing we can do but welcome him with open arms, Mo Ting said coldly. 20 years ago, the old man was able to send him to prison. 20 years later, I can do the same. Okay, President. Indeed, as Lu Che predicted, Nangong Quan did return to Beijing early. In fact, he even watched a few interesting scenes unfold in secret. For example, when Tong Ning caused trouble at Dynasty Hotel. This strong and muscular man with embroidered arms was extremely interested in Tong Ning. How could she counterattack so beautifully? Daddy, I'm sleepy, Nangong Quan's daughter said as she rubbed her eyes. Beside him, Nangong Quan's daughter rubbed her eyes and said, Can I sleep now? Nangong Quan carried his daughter in his arms, helped her wash up and coaxed her to sleep. When he first met Mo Ting when he was younger, he simply thought the little boy was smart and serious. Who would have thought 22 years later he would end up marrying a wife like this? Daddy, I miss Mommy. Can I find you a new mommy? Nangong Quan asked. She will definitely treat little Eggshell well. In that case, hurry up and find one for me. The extremely strong man sat by his daughter's bedside with a gentle expression. He was now the only person left in the Nangong family. Back when Elder Nangong was sent to prison, the entire Nangong family gave up everything they had in exchange for his freedom. And Elder Mo played a huge role in this. It had been a few decades. Perhaps he was getting old, so it was time to end some things early. Was he going to leave this generation's hatred for his daughter? So the Mo family could only suffer. After coaxing his daughter to sleep, Nangong Quan continued to investigate Mo Ting's family situation. He found out that Mo Ting had 3 children. In fact, he had a pair of twins and was currently in foster care at his mother-in-law's home. What a great opportunity! Of course, Mo Ting already smelled danger ahead of time. So whether it was the Mo family or the Tang family, he increased his security. Tongning didn't understand, so she asked Mo Ting. Only then did she find out what happened between the Mo family and the Nangong family. Grandfather didn't do anything wrong, Tongning replied. If I was in his position, I would have done the same thing and I wouldn't have regretted it. Of course, the old man didn't do anything wrong. But Elder Nangong's imprisonment caused the Nangong family to pay a heavy price. Nangong Quan's father was blackmailed, his mother was humiliated, and his uncles didn't end up well either, Mo Ting explained. So, I'm afraid Nangong Quan has returned to settle things. Have you guys met before? Yes. If it wasn't for the Nangong family, we might still be good friends, Mo Ting said as he hugged Tongning. Nangong Quan has always been a man of few words, but he has always been a ruthless character. He rarely talks, he always makes his move. I still don't think grandfather owes the Nangong family anything, but Nangong Quan does. This was the crux of the problem. When it came to hatred, no matter how many years had passed, as long as it remained in one's heart, it would eventually be unleashed. Then, what does he want? Perhaps, only Nangong Quan could answer her. Chapter 1127. Back in the day, the Nangong family had an extraordinary influence in Beijing. But they often wandered in the gray area. Because of this, an actress that Elder Mo was familiar with was implicated and ended up losing her life. As a result, Elder Mo cooperated with the police and captured the Nangong family in one fell swoop. He even provided strong evidence and sent Elder Mo to prison. Following the decline of the Nangong family, the entire entertainment industry and Beijing rarely mentioned them. But, with Nangong Quan's return, it was time to bring up the matter again. Nangong Quan's return was to make the Mo family suffer. Mo Ting wasn't afraid of anything. After all, Elder Mo's actions were not wrong. But his weakness was Tongning. Tongning could see the worry in Mo Ting's eyes, so she teased, "Is President Mo afraid? Get some rest." Mo Ting did not respond. He simply hugged her and lay down on the bed, cuddling her to sleep. Tongning wasn't an ordinary woman. Whether it was physically or mentally, she was stronger than other women. This was something that Mo Ting was never worried about. A few days later, Nangong Quan officially held a press conference to announce his identity as the executive chairman of Springfall Film and Television. He also wished Parasite a success. As soon as Tongning saw this man on the entertainment news, she couldn't help but be cautious. She liked to see a person's soul through their eyes. But this man's eyes were filled with a sense of vicissitudes and sharpness. So his appearance naturally became a hot topic in the industry. It was obvious that he was targeting Hai Rui. It was obvious from the incident with Parasite. After Elder Mo saw the news, he immediately gave Mo Ting a phone call. "Did the rascal from the Nangong family cause trouble for you? Didn't you see everything on the news?" "I'm asking about something else," Elder Mo humphed. The old man harumphed. "These little tricks are exactly the same as his grandfather's. They're not worth mentioning at all." "They haven't done anything yet," Mo Ting replied. "This rascal may be even more powerful than Elder Mo. You guys should be careful. I think you should worry about yourself," Mo Ting said before he hung up the phone. "This rascal." Elder Mo humphed before he also hung up the phone. Afterwards, Wuxia knocked on the office door and handed an invitation to Mo Ting. "President, it's from Springfall Film." Mo Ting received the invitation. After taking a glance at it, he tossed it to the side. "Nangong Quan wants to meet. Are you going?" "Of course I have to go to reminisce about the past." "In that case, should we tell the madam about this?" Wuxia asked as he glanced at the invitation beside Mo Ting. Mo Ting froze for a moment before nodding his head. Of course. From Mo Ting's point of view, although he was worried about Tongning, he had never treated her like a woman. After all, her ability to think was not inferior to any man. So he decided to tell her about this so she could be mentally prepared. That night, after returning home, Mo Ting told Tongning about Nangong Quan's invitation and asked, Do you want to come with me? After all, I can only feel at ease with you by my side. At this time, Tongning shook her head. The day after tomorrow, still at noon. Go ahead, I'll stay at home so you don't have to worry. All right. But, I still feel like something isn't right. Tongning was a little confused. She felt like there was something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Zichen's return visit is the day after tomorrow, Emoting reminded. Yes. Tongning snapped out of her daze. I will send more people the day after tomorrow. Take some bodyguards and follow Mom and Zichen. Okay, Tongning nodded. Tongning gave Xia Yuling a phone call and told her to be on guard. At least, she needed to be aware of danger. Xia Yuling, on the other hand, was a lot more relaxed. I know how to be on guard and I will protect my grandson. But, you guys don't need to be too nervous about this. Things are not the same as 20 years ago. Tongning knew she was making a big deal out of nothing, but who knew what Nangong Quan's bottom line was? After all, they had never fought against each other before. Plus, Nangong Quan was a fierce bandit. 2 days later, Emoting and Nangong Quan met again at Dynasty Hotel. Nangong Quan, dressed in a gray suit, welcomed Emoting with a smile. Long time no see. Emoting removed his suit jacket and sat down opposite Nangong Quan. The two handsome men immediately attracted the attention of the opposite sex in the hotel. President Nangong has arrived with a big group of people. Why didn't your wife come with you? I should have explained the incident with Glory to her. Nangong Quan replied elegantly. Nangong Quan replied politely. My men didn't handle this matter well, so I'm sure sister-in-law is upset. My son went for a follow-up today, so my wife went with him. Emoting replied calmly. As for the incident with Glory, although I didn't gain anything, I didn't lose anything either. Beijing has changed a lot since I returned this time. The industry is now your world. Nangong Quan chuckled. President Nangong, did you ask me out to catch up on the old days? Of course I did. After all, the only people I know in Beijing are the Mo family. Now that I'm back with my daughter, it's only right for me to meet up with old friends. Otherwise, my daughter won't be able to find a place to visit. Wouldn't she be lonely during the holidays? The conversation between the two men was simply a way to test each other. It was all psychological warfare. If you have something to say, then say it. After all, I don't think Elder Nangong did anything wrong in the past. Emoting took the initiative and said straightforwardly. Emoting took the initiative and put it more bluntly. I don't think the Mo family owes you anything. I never said that the Mo family owes me anything. I only asked you out because you are the only person I can talk to. As for Parasite, it is a business matter that is handled by professionals, so I can't say that I know everything, Nangong Quan explained. Emoting, even if I want to cause trouble for you, I will do it openly. Others may not know, but I know you well. Plus, I have a daughter now. It wasn't easy for me to get to where I am today. I don't want my daughter to lose her father because of a past grudge. Let's meet up more often from now on. I'll make you trust me. Whether Emoting trusted him or not, he still needed to be cautious. After all, Nangong Quan wasn't the only one who had the final say in the Nangong family. Back then, the Nangong family had a lot of power and influence. So when Elder Nangong went to prison, a lot of people were implicated. However, they had been biding their time until now. Now that Nangong Quan was back, they had a new leader. So, how could they not wait for an opportunity to strike? Chapter 1128. The meal passed peacefully and Mo Zichen's follow-up went smoothly. So, Tongning let out a sigh of relief. Seeing that her son was fine, she finally relaxed. But on the way home, Xia Yuling's car was intercepted by 2 black cars. At the time, Mo Zichen was sitting in the back. Xia Yuling immediately stopped in her tracks. She was stuck in the alleyway and did not dare to move. A moment later, 4 or 5 thugs jumped out of the car with sticks in their hands. Without waiting for Xia Yuling to say anything, they began to smash the car. Tongning chased after them with her bodyguards. The thugs calmly returned to their car and drove off. Tongning immediately pulled open the car door and helped Xia Yuling out. She then carried Mo Zichen in her arms. Are you alright? I'm fine. I'm not sure if I scared Zichen. I never expected that the Nangong family would resort to such underhanded methods. What kind of society is this? How can they still be so violent? Let's talk at home. Tongning carried Zichen in her arms and escorted Xia Yuling safely back to the Tang family home. I was scared to death. I'm sorry, Mom. Tongning apologized as she comforted Zichen. It's not your fault. But when he thought about it, he couldn't help but feel scared. Not long after, Tongning gave Emoting a phone call and told him everything that happened in the alley. After picking up the phone, Emoting's expression did not change, but he was obviously not as relaxed as before. I just got a call from my wife. My son was attacked on his way back. Is that so? Hurry back and have a look, Nangong Quan urged. Emoting scoffed as he stood up from his seat. From now on, if you want to launch a sneak attack or surround me, it's best if you come after me. Kids can't handle the fear. If something really happens, the Nangong family will disappear from the face of the earth. Fight me fair and square. Only then will I respect you as an opponent. Nangong Quan did not say a word as he watched Emoting leave. Afterwards, he made a phone call to the agency. Who told you to get revenge on the Mo family? Young master. Uncle Chiu, we live in a lawful society, not a violent society. Why did you have to do something so despicable? Nangong Quan asked angrily. We'll talk about it when I get back. Nangong Quan may have been cruel in the past, but he now had a daughter and knew how to be gentle. Plus, bullying someone was the lowest form. Even if he won, what glory was there? So, as soon as he returned to the agency, he went to see Chiu-jin. Why didn't you listen to me? Young master, we've endured for so many years waiting for you to come back just to find trouble with the Mo family. Have you forgotten the pain the Mo family brought you? I haven't forgotten. But what's the point of scaring Emoting's son today? Emoting. Emoting you with his of. Emo was of. Young master. If you really want to win against Hai Rui, then help me build a bigger empire than Hai Rui and produce something better than the Ant Queen. Don't even think about using underhanded methods. They won't have any effect on Emoting. That's the only way you can truly crush the Mo family. Nangong Quan's voice was a little too loud, so little Eggshell, who was resting outside, immediately pushed open the door and looked at her father. Daddy, why are you so fierce? Nangong Quan glared at Chiu-jin before he stood up and walked over to his daughter, and picked her up in his arms. I'm sorry, baby. Daddy will try his best to control himself from now on. If they weren't fighting on the same side, it didn't matter if they won or lost. So what sense of revenge or victory did they have? Perhaps I'm getting old, and I don't understand the thoughts of the young. I've waited all these years for you to come back, and take everyone to the Mo family for revenge. But I don't think the young master's heart is on this. You can forget about the death of your family, but I can't. After speaking, Chiu-jin left the office, leaving the father and daughter behind. Of course, Nangong Quan didn't approve of Chiu-jin's actions, but he wouldn't go so far as to tip off his enemies. So he told someone to keep an eye on Chiu-jin. After all, the Nangong family owed Chiu-jin a favor, and he would never forget that. Emoting quickly returned home. Seeing that his wife and son were safe, his expression softened. Tongning pounced into Emoting's arms as Emoting patted her on the back. I'm glad you're okay. Mom was still scared. Let's go, we'll talk about it at home. Emoting escorted Tongning back to Hyatt Regency. But from Nangong Quan's reaction, it was obvious that he didn't think the incident this time had anything to do with him. But he still had to be straightforward. Even if Nangong Quan is a criminal, he is a gentleman. Is that a compliment to an enemy? Tongning laughed. If he actually competed with you in the business world, it would have been a great show. But if he was actually aware of what happened, then there's no point talking about him anymore. I told Lu Che to do a deeper investigation on Nangong Quan. Emoting replied. He then asked, is our son okay? He's fine. The little rascal was born with a calm demeanor. I can't do anything about him. If it was Zishi, he would have burst into tears by now. That's good. Meanwhile, Chiu-jin suffered at Nangong Quan's hands, so all he could do was drink in his office. He had endured for so many years, all because he wanted to get revenge on the Mo family and get justice for his family. But why didn't Nangong Quan have any plans to do so? Was he still a descendant of the Nangong family? Master Chiu, if the young master doesn't want to make a move, we can make a move on our own. After all, we can't rely on the young master anymore. So in for a penny, in for a pound. You make it sound so simple. Chiu Jin humphed. Do you think the Mo family are easy to deal with? Even when they smashed up the car today, didn't you hear from the people that came back that Tongning followed them the entire time with bodyguards? The Mo family have always been cunning, Chiu Jin's subordinate replied. We need to plan this matter carefully. It won't be easy to deal with them from the front. Let's see if we can find an opportunity in the industry. After all, Tongning is still active in the industry. I refuse to believe that she won't be alone one day. Master Chiu is right. As long as we don't let the young master find out when the time comes, everything will be fine. Now that I think about it, Springfall was founded by Master Chiu. The reason he gave it to the young master was because he wanted to use it for revenge. But he actually took it seriously. By the time he overtook Hairue, he would be in his 70s or 80s. Wouldn't he be letting his enemy live comfortably until they were old? Chapter 1129. Chiu Jin glared at his subordinate and smashed the glass in his hand. I've already allowed the Mo family to live for so many years. I'm not going to allow them to continue living comfortably. Continue to keep an eye on them. Nangong Quan's daughter, Little Eggshell, was a little over a year older than the twins. But she was a very sensitive girl, and was able to accurately express her emotions. This was rare at her age. After all, most children were mischievous at the age of 4 or 5. Little Eggshell seemed to empathize with Nangong Quan and knew that he had something on his mind. So every day, after finishing her homework, she would wait for her father to return home no matter how late it was. That night, Little Eggshell overheard the conversation between her father and Chiu Jin. So as soon as she returned home, she hugged onto Nangong Quan's leg. Daddy, Grandfather Chiu made you angry because he wanted to hurt someone, right? Eggshell. Daddy, will Grandfather Chiu cause other children to lose their mothers? Little Eggshell asked as she lifted her head. No. Nangong Quan patted her on the head. Daddy promises. Daddy won't let Grandfather Chiu do anything rash. Children without mothers are very pitiful, Little Eggshell said as she furrowed her brows. All of Nangong Quan's love came from this little angel. She was his motivation to continue living. Don't worry, Daddy won't let other children lose their mothers. So even though Nangong Quan said that he wouldn't let the Mo family know, when he thought about Chiu Jin's reaction and the Mo family's 3 children, he decided to give Mo Ting a phone call in front of Little Eggshell. I told you earlier today that I won't seek revenge. Even if I have to retaliate, I will defeat you directly. But Mo Ting, just because I won't, doesn't mean that my grandfather's former subordinates won't. You and your wife better be careful. After hearing Nangong Quan's warning, Mo Ting chuckled. Rather than letting us be careful, you should be more careful. Elder Nangong's former subordinates went through so much to bring you back. Yet you don't have the heart to seek revenge. How long do you think they'll tolerate you? If they really disregard everything, what do you think your biggest weakness is? Nangong Quan subconsciously glanced at Little Eggshell. Of course, Mo Ting's reminder struck Mo Ting's heart. Chiu Jin already had a grudge against him. So if things really escalated to the point of falling out, the first thing he needed to ensure was Little Eggshell's safety. As she sat beside Mo Ting and listened to the conversation between Nangong Quan and Mo Ting, she suddenly laughed. Why do I feel like the two of you are so similar? Originally, we could have been friends, Mo Ting said as he put down his phone and hugged her. From the looks of the situation, it's not Nangong Quan that we need to be wary of, but the clowns behind us. So not only Tongning, but Hairue also stepped up their security. Meanwhile, Xiao Sen's daughter had requested 3 months of leave from Tongning. Meanwhile, Tongning had already flown to the US for training as a director. And right now, Tongning was also building her new team, Starshine. Even though she had gathered all the geniuses together, she still had to go through intensive training. Otherwise, she would not be able to directly utilize their talents. While the Ant Queen 2 was being prepared, the crew of Parasite officially entered the filming phase. Apart from Tongning and Springfall, a lot of other film companies were also getting involved in the production of sci-fi films. But they all sent Hairue invitations to invite Tongning to be their consultant. It was obvious that they all wanted to produce a good sci-fi film. But their actions received a lot of support from the public. At least, they were no longer the same as before, where they would make a shoddy film just to fill in the gaps in the genre. The success of The Ant Queen was like a wake-up call to the public. They now knew how much the public craved good films, and Tongning provided them with the best results. As a result, Tongning's name became synonymous with quality in every aspect of the entertainment industry. As long as Tongning was involved, regardless of whether it was an actor or a film, it meant that the film was of high quality, because she was the best detector for bad films. As a result, Tongning realized that she now had a greater say. But because of her increased responsibility, she had less time to speak. Under these circumstances, if another film and television agency came looking for her, would she be able to accept them? The answer was, of course not. The film industry had always been uneven and sci-fi films required a lot of investment. So Tongning didn't want to hold others to the same standards as the Ant Queen. She was willing to go bankrupt, but did others have the guts to take the gamble? So Tongning asked Mo Ting to reject her as a consultant on her behalf. So as her manager, Mo Ting naturally helped her avoid any problems. Tongning has already re-signed with Hairue. Their contract states that an artist can only work for the agency for the rest of their life, at least for the duration of their contract. As a result, Tongning cannot participate in the production of other companies' films. Tongning is currently working on The Ant Queen 2. But she is merely a staff member of the film industry. She is not a god. I hope you won't hold her to the standards of a god. At the same time, she is also a mother of 3 children. She will spend most of her time taking care of them and educating them. All in all, even though a lot of people believed that Tongning could guide the production of other companies' sci-fi films, the chances of this happening weren't high. But this also proved how many supporters Tongning had at the moment. She wasn't someone that could be compared to a superstar or an international supermodel. Her existence was already representative of the arts. Of course, because of the Ant Queen, the public was a lot more tolerant of Tongning than before. This was what people meant when they said, "One's work speaks for itself." Most importantly, Tongning was no different from how she was in the past, yet she kept a lower profile. She still remembered where she stood, so it was no wonder that many people, both domestically and overseas, viewed her as an idol. However, Tongning had been living in seclusion for a long time, and did not give Qiujin a chance. This made Qiujin anxious. After Mo Zichen's eyes recovered, Tongning brought them home. After all, children with parents to take care of them were more confident and safe. This was a very important thing. Of course, before they knew it, it was time for the 2 brothers to go to school. So, Mo Ting had already made arrangements for them. In order not to cause a commotion, the 2 brothers used their English names instead of their Chinese names, and tried not to let their classmates know who their parents were. He simply wanted to give them a low-profile learning environment. Chapter 1130. Although Tongning had previously revealed her identity at the Zhai family's wedding, the children's appearances were constantly changing. So, it wasn't too difficult to hide their identities. Because of this, Tongning hired a helper to be their home tutor, and take them home every day. As a result, the 2 brothers ended up attending Beijing's Huanglin Academy, the best public school in the country. Regardless of their family background, the children there would be judged by their grades. So the 2 brothers were going to suffer. Of course, there was one unsurprising coincidence. Nan Gongquan's daughter, Little Eggshell, also attended the same school. She was just a year ahead of the 2 brothers. Other people's children were personally taken to school by their parents so that the teachers would know their children's identities and take care of them. But the Mo couple did not. Their son needed to be trained from a young age and couldn't be as delicate as a girl. So Mo Ting was ruthless. Back when he was a few years old, his English was already very fluent. So, how bad could his son be? But the reality was, Mo Zishi got along well with his classmates, but Mo Zichin didn't. After all, Zichin's eye was injured and his scar was still there. So both boys and girls did not dare to get too close to him. But Mo Zichin didn't care. But not too long after starting school, the two brothers still got into trouble. There was a chubby boy in their class that liked to bully Zichin. Because of the scar on his face, the chubby boy was slightly older than the other kids. So he was able to communicate better. "You're so ugly. You're the ugliest kid in our class." Mo Zichin continued to play with his building blocks and ignored the chubby boy. "My mom said you're mute. Only mutes don't talk." After Mo Zishi went to the bathroom, he saw the chubby boy laughing at his brother. So he immediately threw a punch at him. Don't talk about my brother." Mo Zishi may not have expressed how Mo Zichin got his injury, but he knew that his brother had protected him. So now that his brother was being bullied, he naturally had to stand in front of him and protect him. Then, the little fatty was beaten to tears. He called his teacher to complain. "Teacher, they beat me." At the time, the teacher in charge of the class tried her best to investigate the background of the children. She even found out that the chubby boy's mother was the boss of a hotel chain. However, the two brothers were picked up by a sister in a cheap car every day, so they couldn't be from a rich family. Therefore, she naturally sided with the chubby boy. "You two, you're so young, yet you don't learn good things. How did you learn to beat people up? Call your parents." As this was the first time, when news of the incident reached the ears of the Mo couple, Tongning simply let out a laugh. "Our son hit someone. Miss Tang, it was actually the other party's fault. Zishi was simply protecting Zichin." Su Yuran replied. This woman was a retired soldier and had good fighting skills. So, Tongning hired her because she liked her. She squatted down and pinched her son's cheeks. At school, they are the only ones without any backing, so they will definitely be bullied. Why didn't you reveal your identity? Our background can protect them, but it can also cause them a lot of trouble. I'd rather they stay like this and protect each other than be surrounded by reporters, Tongning replied. When they get a little older, they'll understand. Su Yuren nodded her head. You're right. So, the two little idiots had to protect each other and continue their daily life of being bullied. But the two idiots attended the same school as little Eggshell. Although they didn't know each other, the subordinate that Nangong Quan sent to and from school on behalf of Nangong Quan had seen the two rascals walk out of school hand in hand. At first, he thought they looked familiar. But when he thought about it carefully, he remembered that he had seen them at the Zhai family's wedding. So he told Nangong Quan about it. But Nangong Quan did not react. They were in the same school, not the same grade or the same class. As long as they didn't interact with each other, it was fine. But Qiu Jin ended up overhearing this. He tried everything he could think of from Tongning, but he couldn't find the right opportunity. Now that he found out the two rascals were at Huanglin College, wasn't he just going to wear out iron shoes to find them? Look at how cunning the Mo family are. No one has any idea that their children are actually at Huanglin College. But the school is heavily guarded and there are people taking them to and from school. It's not easy for us to find the right opportunity. Qiu Jin took a deep puff of his cigarette and threw it onto the ground. He then stepped on it. In that case, we'll follow the cars and make our move when we see a suitable location. Okay, we'll do as you say. No one knew that Qiu Jin had his eyes on the two Mo family babies. Of course, they had no idea how good Su Yuren's fighting skills were. So, they had to see for themselves. They thought she was just a weak little sister taking the twins to and from school. In order to cause trouble for the two, Qiu Jin camped outside the school for a few days. After confirming with his own eyes that Su Yuran was the only one there, and no one from the Mo family, he decided to make his move on Friday afternoon. After all, he already knew the route Su Yuran would take the kids home. But, Qiu Jin never expected that little Eggshell would see him squatting down in the car. As soon as little Eggshell returned home, she reported to Nangong Quan. Daddy, I saw Grandfather Qiu at the school gates today. Are you sure you saw right? Nangong Quan asked as he carried little Eggshell onto his lap. I saw him a few times, I'm sure. Why did Grandfather Chiu come to our school? What else could he do? Of course, he was here for the twins. Eggshell, you don't need to worry about anything. Just promise Daddy that when you're in danger, you'll stay away, okay? You need to know that Daddy can't survive without you. Although little Eggshell couldn't understand Nangong Quan's emotions, she agreed to his every request. However, she still felt that Grandfather Chiu was acting strange. Plus, he kept staring at the twins. Was he planning to do something bad? With this thought, little Eggshell secretly made a plan. She would definitely notice Grandfather Chiu's movements and give the two boys a warning. To be honest, it was because the two boys were really cute. Especially the one that didn't like to talk. He was just like her father. Chapter 1131. Over the next 2 days, not only did little Eggshell find out which classroom the twins attended, but she also found out their English names. Until Friday afternoon after school, little Eggshell deliberately followed behind the brothers because she wanted to take another look at them. But as soon as the brothers boarded their car, she noticed that Chiu Jin's car had left with them. Little Eggshell immediately found the driver who would take her to school. Uncle, hurry up and follow Grandpa Chiu's car. Miss, follow them. If Dad asks, tell him it was my idea. As little Eggshell grew up without a mother by her side, she was very sensitive and she expressed herself very accurately. Nangong Quan's subordinates had no choice but to follow Chiu Jin's car from afar. Chiu Jin wanted to stop Su Yuran while she drove to a secluded area. In reality, he did exactly that. Just like last time, Xia Yuling stopped Zichen on the way to the hospital. A screeching sound could be heard. Su Yuran was intercepted by a black car. Then, 5 men got off the black car with iron rods in their hands. We're not looking for you. We're looking for the 2 brothers in your car. Su Yuran turned her head and glanced at the 2 brothers in the car as she comforted them. Auntie needs to get out of the car to deal with some matters. Be good and stay in the car. Don't move around, okay? Mo Zishi and Mo Zichen stretched their necks, but they still nodded their heads obediently. Su Yuran took this opportunity to get out of the car. Without a trace of panic, she simply put on a pair of black boxing gloves. Just 5 people? Seeing Su Yuran's stance, the men guessed that she had some skills and were a little afraid. But at this time, Chiu Jin ordered, "What are you waiting for? Arrest him." The 4 men rushed towards Su Yuran, but the man in the lead was sent flying by a beautiful roundhouse kick from Su Yuran. As for the other 3 men, they froze in place. This level of skill. She wasn't just a professional, was she? Charge. The men soon got into a scuffle. At this time, Chiu Jin took the opportunity to run to the back of the car. He wanted to open the door on the left and carry the brothers out. But little Eggshell's car caught up to them. Before the car came to a complete stop, little Eggshell asked the driver to drive for her. "Uncle, help them. Help them." "Miss." The driver felt helpless. "Otherwise, I'll tell Dad that you bullied me." What was the driver supposed to do? He could only obediently get out of the car and let little Eggshell run out. He knew that Chiu Jin wouldn't hurt her. "Grandfather Chiu, go. Go." Little Eggshell immediately ran forward and bit Chiu Jin's arm. She then closed the car door and stood in front of the brothers. "Kai Er, why are you here?" This was little Eggshell's real name, Nangong Kai. Chiu Jin held his hand in pain as he looked at Eggshell. Yuran Chiu Eggshell. Meanwhile, Su Yuran had successfully dealt with the 4 men and was about to capture Chiu Jin. "Big sister, don't hurt Grandpa Chiu, okay?" Su Yuran tilted her head and looked at little Eggshell. The little girl only knew how to protect others. So, she threw Chiu Jin to the side. "If it wasn't for the fact that you're a little girl, I would have broken all your ribs today. I'm going to be fired." Chiu Jin crawled up from the ground and ran away with his men. At this time, little Eggshell's driver arrived to pick her up. "Miss, let's go. If we don't go home soon, I'm going to get fired." Little Eggshell glanced at the 2 brothers in the car and relaxed before she left with her driver. But this little girl left a deep impression in Su Yuran's heart. Of course, the Mo brothers probably felt the same way. Soon, news of Chiu Jin causing trouble spread throughout the 2 families, even though Chiu Jin didn't gain anything out of it. After all, He never expected Su Yuran to be so good at martial arts. No wonder Tongning trusted a girl to escort her sons to and from school. Meanwhile, Nangong called Qiu Jin into his office and handed him a block of ice. Put this on your face. Umph. I've heard everything from little Eggshell. Uncle Qiu, can't you just stop? I've waited for over 20 years. Yet you're telling me to stop? Nangong, you can do it. You can forget how your family died, but I can't. I can't forget how my wife and unborn child died. Uncle Qiu, in the past, Grandpa lived a dangerous life. Have you ever thought about the families that Grandpa hurt and the people that died because of him? Especially Elder Mo's confidant, that female celebrity. Who are they going to get revenge on? I don't care. I know you've been unhappy with me ever since I returned. How about this? I'll give Springfall back to you. From now on you get your revenge and I'll live my life. Nangong said. Uncle Qiu, I'm grateful that you waited for me all these years. But the revenge that I want is fair and square. After speaking, Nangong stood up and gave up his position as CEO. You don't need to go. My brother gave me the money to start this company. I'm leaving. After speaking, Qiu Jin turned around and left the office without looking back. But asking him to give up on revenge was a fool's dream. Late at night, Hyatt Regency. After coaxing the kids to sleep, Tongning entered Mo Ting's study room and sat down beside him. Luckily, Yuran was here today. I also need to thank the daughter of the Nangong family. However, I still insist that grandfather didn't do anything wrong. I never thought that Nangong daughter would be so understanding at such a young age. She's a good girl. I'll deal with the aftermath. Don't worry, Mo Ting replied. Ting, rather than sitting around and waiting for death, I think it's better to find Qiu Jin and talk to him openly. It's better than him plotting against us every time, Tongning suggested. I don't want to sit around and wait for death. After all, a child's life isn't something to be trifled with. I'll find an opportunity to make arrangements, Mo Ting nodded. On Monday morning, Tongning prepared a cake and handed it to the two brothers. She then knelt down and said, You need to give this to the lady that saved you the other day, okay? You can't eat it yourself. Mo Zishi nodded his head in a daze. Meanwhile, Mo Zichen did not say a word. Yuran, sorry to trouble you. Su Yuran held onto the two kids' hands and smiled. It's fine. I'll take them to thank the little girl. Tongning stood up and watched as the trio left. At times, she wondered if this was an ill-fated relationship, the daughter of her enemy. It was already good enough that they didn't fight when they saw each other. Who would have thought that they would be involved in something like this? Chapter 1132. Soon, the three of them arrived at the school gates. At this time, little Eggshell also stepped out of the car. However, this time, Nangong was the one that dropped her off. Su Yuran did not think too much into it. Of course, she had no idea about the grudge between Nangong and the Mo family. So she held onto the hands of the two kids and asked them to hand over the cake. How should you greet your savior? Two young gentlemen. Mo Zichen didn't move, but Mo Zishi was very honest. He handed the cake to little Eggshell. Nangong didn't know what to say and little Eggshell looked at her father, unsure if she should accept it. After a while, Nangong finally relented. Take it. Sir, you have taught your daughter well. Nangong glanced at Su Yuran. After confirming that she was the martial artist, he looked at her meaningfully before he left with little Eggshell, who was holding on to the cake box. Su Yuran was a little confused, so as she drove the two brothers home, she mentioned it to Tongning. After hearing this, Tongning laughed. You probably don't pay attention to him, so you might not know who he is. He is the CEO of Springfall that's been appearing on the news a lot recently, Nangong. He's an old enemy of the Mo family. No wonder. Su Yuran understood. In that case, the next time I see you, it's best if I don't greet you. I don't want to make things awkward. No need. We are the ones who have a grudge against him, not you, Tongning smiled. That man doesn't look easy to get along with. This was Su Yuran's first impression of Nangong. To be exact, he was a reserved man that wasn't easy to get along with. Who cared? It had nothing to do with her anyway. Of course, Su Yuran wasn't the only one feeling awkward. That night, after returning home, Nangong Quan carried little Eggshell on his lap and asked, "Tell Daddy, do you really like those two boys?" "Daddy," little Eggshell mumbled. "Eggshell, Daddy doesn't want to interfere with your decision to make friends, but you can't have too much contact with boys, understand? Learn to protect yourself." "Uh-huh," little Eggshell nodded. If not for the incident that happened more than 20 years ago, perhaps one of the two Mo brothers could have been chosen as his son-in-law. But now, "Daddy, didn't you say you wanted to find a mother for Eggshell? Why hasn't Eggshell seen Mommy yet?" "What kind of mother does Eggshell like? What type? Do you want someone pretty, or someone who can play with eggshells?" Nangong Quan asked little Eggshell carefully. He had decided to remarry because he wanted to give little Eggshell a complete family. So he didn't expect that he would like little Eggshell. As long as little Eggshell was satisfied, he was happy. Just like that big sister. When she smiles, it's so warm. Which big sister? That's it. Nangong Quan finally realized what was going on. Little Eggshell must have taken a liking to the two brothers' upbringing. The one with good fighting skills and a bright and clean appearance. Can't it be someone else? Eggshell just feels that the big sister is very amiable. I like her very much. Since little Eggshell liked it, what else could he do? That night, Nangong Quan ordered his men to investigate Su Yuran's family background. It seemed he was going to steal her from the Mo family. Su Yuran was lying at home all by herself. She had no idea that someone had secretly taken a liking to her. Tongning decided to have a chat with Qiu Jin, so Mo Ting made the necessary arrangements. However, Qiu Jin had one condition. He could see Tongning, but Mo Ting couldn't appear. Otherwise, there was no point in talking. "President, be careful," Lu Che reminded. "It's too dangerous for the madam to go alone." Qiu Jin simply said that I can't appear. He didn't say that Tongning can't bring anyone with her. Mo Ting played with words. When the time comes, you just need to bring a few people with you to protect her. Where is Qiu Jin meeting? The cemetery. His wife and son's death anniversary was coming up soon, so Qiu Jin only agreed to meet at the cemetery. Otherwise, they would have no choice but to fight endlessly. Tongning temporarily compromised. After all, she was now the mother of 3 children, and compared to Mo Ting, she didn't need as much face. So it was best for her to show up. However, Nangong Quan also heard about this matter. The Mo family wants to negotiate with Uncle Qiu in private because they want to resolve their grudge. But they don't understand Uncle Qiu at all. Uncle Qiu is stubborn. Do you think Mo Ting temporarily compromised because he listened to someone? Nangong Quan asked as he looked at his assistant. The two of them are simply using peaceful means before resorting to force. In that case, let's just focus on watching the show, Nangong Quan's assistant replied. Have you done what I asked you to do? Nangong Quan asked as he lifted his head. Have you sent the Su family an invitation? President, will the other party be wary of you because of your identity? What identity? Nangong Quan asked. Damn it, I said the wrong thing. You've seen the information. Su Yuran is nothing but a sacrifice in the Su family. Did you think they'd reject me? Nangong Quan's assistant scratched his head and let out an awkward laugh. You need to handle this matter well. Otherwise, you might as well leave. Su Yuran was sent to join the army because her mother didn't want her daughter to be bullied all year round. Her mother was disabled, so she was naturally ostracized by her family. But she refused to get a divorce and continued to waste her time with Su Yuran's father. But her father wasn't willing to stay by a disabled woman's side. So he found someone to take care of her and continued to live outside. With such a tough life, how could Su Yuran still be able to smile so brightly? Who gave her warmth? Nangong Quan probably had no resistance to warm people. So apart from following Little Eggshell's instructions, he also began to research Su Yuran. He sent the invitation to the Su family without letting Su Yuran know. He wanted the Su family to know of his existence so he could subdue Su Yuran. That way it would be much easier. Previously, to satisfy Little Eggshell, he even prepared all sorts of female celebrities. But from the looks of it, Little Eggshell only likes simple and sunny things. So he rejected all the invitations from the industry and personally took Little Eggshell to and from school. That way he could spend more time with Su Yuran. Daddy, aren't you busy with work? Eggshell wants mommy, right? Daddy's always busy with work. How can mommy come? Nangong Quan said as he held on to his daughter's hand. Little Eggshell laughed as she understood Nangong Quan's intention. You can do it, Daddy. Good job. At that moment, Su Yuran walked in front of the father and daughter with the two Mo brothers. Chapter 1133. To create an opportunity for her father, Little Eggshell threw away Nangong Quan's hand and walked over to Su Yuran. Big sis, let me take them to their classroom. I know where it is. Since they were already at the school gates, Su Yuran handed the two little devils to Little Eggshell. Thank you in advance. You're welcome. After speaking, Little Eggshell turned around and glanced at her father, gesturing for him to seize the opportunity. But Nangong Quan had no intention of making a move yet. Su Yuran turned around and saw Nangong Quan standing behind her. She did not say a word as she headed straight for her car. Of course, Nangong Quan had no reason to chase after her. Little Eggshell watched from afar as Nangong Quan let Su Yuran leave like that. She despised her father. He didn't even take the initiative as much as she did. But she didn't know that adults were always defenseless towards children. Apart from taking the Mo twins to and from school, Su Yuran spent the rest of her time studying. After being in the military for so long, she had already lost touch with the outside world. She really wanted to break away from her family, so she worked hard to create value for herself. She understood that her mother didn't want to be a burden to her, so she didn't want to divorce her father. But she didn't think she needed her mother to make such a sacrifice. With this thought, Su Yuran worked even harder. Of course, this was all thanks to Tongning's salary, which allowed her to pursue her dreams and career. At that moment, Su Yuran was in the middle of class. Meanwhile, Nangong Quan stood outside the school and watched her for half an hour. Su Yuran didn't just attend one class. She also spent the entire day studying. Her most relaxing time of the day was when she took the Mo twins to and from school. Afterwards, she returned to the home that she ran away from and watched as her parents sat together. I heard you're tutoring the child of the superstar, Tongning? Father Su asked Su Yuran during dinner. Aha. Su Yuran nodded her head. If that's the case, your income must be quite good. You've seen your mother's current situation. From now on, you should contribute a little to help the family, Father Su said. If I remember correctly, you have 3 companies under your name, right? Su Yuran asked. What do you mean? Papa Su's expression suddenly changed. I joined the army when I was very young, so it was the country that raised me, not my father. As for my mother, I can pay the full amount, but only if my mother is willing to divorce you. Su Yuran asked straightforwardly. You ran. The evidence of this man's philandering is everywhere. When the court decides, it should be enough to split half of his wealth. Pretend I didn't say anything tonight. Father Su knew Su Yuran wasn't joking, so he tried his best to calm the mother and daughter down. However, as he stood up, he did not forget to curse Mother Su. You should have died earlier. As Mother Su burst into tears, Su Yuran asked, Why won't you get a divorce? This is my problem, it has nothing to do with you. Auntie Su replied. Even if I die, I will drag him down with me for the rest of his life. If he's going to suffer, we'll suffer together. But don't drag me down. Su Yuran replied. If you don't leave, I'll suffer with you. If I leave on my own, I won't be able to let go. Mother Su suddenly remembered Nangong Quan's visiting card. She didn't tell Su Yuran's father about it, otherwise, he might actually sell his daughter. She simply thought, if a woman married Nangong Quan, she would have someone to rely on and wouldn't have to worry about being bullied anymore, so Mother Su arranged to meet Nangong Quan in private without Su Yuran and Nangong Quan knowing. Meanwhile, Tongning's meeting with Chiu-jin was officially confirmed. Chiu-jin made it clear that he didn't want to see anyone from the Mo family, so Tongning was the only one to meet him. Mo Ting naturally made the necessary arrangements. But what did Chiu-jin plan on doing? This was, of course, the best opportunity to kidnap Tongning. After all, he had been at the cemetery for over 20 years, so he knew every single exit. Since Tongning had delivered herself to him, there was no need for him to hold back. Uncle Chiu, when the time comes, we will have our men stationed at all the exits. It'll be easy to kidnap Tongning, one of Chiu Jin's subordinates said as he pointed to a map of the cemetery. As long as we secure the exits, no one will be able to get in. Let's go with this plan, Chiu Jin replied. The couple is extremely cunning. You need to be extra careful. Even if we can't kidnap the two rascals, it's not a bad idea to kidnap Mo Ting's sweetheart. I didn't manage to kidnap the two little bastards from the Mo family, but it's not bad to kidnap Mo Ting's sweetheart. If we succeed this time, I will be able to comfort the souls of my wife and son. But how could it be so easy to make a move on Tongning? Even though the entire cemetery was filled with people, and even though every exit was sealed, as long as President Mo wanted to enter, no one would be able to stop him, even if he had to fly into the sky or dive into the ground. Soon, Baijuni's sci-fi film Parasite officially began filming. At the same time, Tongning's The Ant Queen 2 was also in the midst of preparations. This was a blessing for film fans. Because of Tongning's persistence, sci-fi films were indeed progressing in the right direction. As a result, Tongning's status in the hearts of film fans naturally rose to another level. Another piece of good news was that, after Lin Qian finished her confinement, she announced that she would be returning to Superstar Media and relaunching it. In other words, she would be replacing Tongning in poaching outdated artists. At this time, Long Jie had already returned home to rest. Because Tongning did not need an assistant, Lu Che could handle her daily needs. During this time, Fang Yu would become Mo Ting's assistant, and Lu Che would be able to give Tongning more time. At the moment, the entertainment industry was still thriving. Every day, there were new debuts and old faces falling. Every day, there were endless scandals and fights between artists. But it seemed Tongning had already broken away from all of this. Because in the eyes of the public, she was no longer just an artist, a producer or an actress. She represented good films and represented the rise of sci-fi. All of this made her status in the industry even more significant. And Mo Ting was the one that created greatness. But the public had no way of knowing about Tongning's secret, especially now that she even had to deal with her enemies. Chapter 1134. The morning that Tongning and Chiu Jin agreed to meet, Mother Su met with Nangong Quan. At first glance, Mother Su simply thought that he was like a giant, and that protecting Su Yuran would be a piece of cake. At second glance, this man was very steady. These were Mother Su's first two impressions of Nangong Quan. Hello, Auntie. To be honest, I'm quite surprised that you're not familiar with Yuran. Yet you're so bold as to suggest starting a family with her? Mother Su asked. Tell me honestly, do you have an unmentionable illness? Auntie, don't worry, I'm healthy, Nangong Quan replied. I want to marry Su Yuran because my daughter really likes her. I'm sorry, but I already have a 5-year-old daughter. Apart from that, I don't have any other female companions. If Yuran marries me, I will try my best to be loyal to her. As for my background, I'm sure you're aware of it. If Yuran marries into the Nangong family, I won't let her suffer. Mother Su was well aware of this fact. Have you been in prison before? I did it to save someone. If I could go back in time, even if I knew I would end up in prison, I would still do it. Nangong Quan replied sincerely. I know you well, but you probably don't understand how tough my daughter's life is. Just 2 days ago, her father cursed me to die right in front of her. Mother Su sneered. Mother Su sneered. I know Yuran wants me to leave the Su family. She thinks she can take care of me and give me a good life. However, she has never imagined how difficult and gloomy an unmarried girl's life will be with a disabled mother. While other women can date prettily, she can only come home and take care of my basic needs. While other women are in relationships, she has to work multiple jobs to pay for my medical bills and our living expenses. She's taking life too lightly. I don't want her to live such a tough life. Mr. Nangong, I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me, but I want to find a man that's trustworthy enough to save my daughter from her original family. That way, I won't have to worry about anything anymore. I can agree to let the two of you be together, but she must like you. Otherwise, she'll just be another me. This is the direction you need to work towards. I'll ask her to move out of the Su family, so that it'll be more convenient for you. Of course, I'll be watching you at all times. If you don't treat my daughter well, then I'll pretend we never met today. I will. Nangongquan nodded. Don't worry. Nangongquan could feel how bitter his mother was. But it was also because of this bitterness that the greatness of maternal love was highlighted. So as soon as Mother Su returned home, she gave Su Yuren a phone call. Let's go home and pack your things. You can move out and live on your own. No, Mom, what happened? You don't have to worry about me. Your aunt will come over to take care of me. So I'm going to clean up your room for your aunt to live in. You know how powerful your aunt is. You should go find a place to live. Although moving out was Su Yuren's dream, she wanted to take her mother with her. But she had now been kicked out by her own mother. If it was someone else, Su Yuren would be worried. But her auntie wasn't easy to deal with. She was a lawyer and specialized in divorce cases. This was the reason why her father didn't dare to act recklessly. If her father dared to be rude to her mother again, he wouldn't be able to handle her auntie. This was indeed much more useful than staying at home. After all, her auntie was all alone. If she moved in, she would be able to take care of her. Because of this, she decided to move out. It was a warm afternoon. Tongning headed straight for the cemetery Qiu Jin mentioned with a few bodyguards to negotiate with him. Although as soon as she stepped into the cemetery, she smelled danger. But she trusted her husband. The entrances and exits of the cemetery were all under Qiu Jin's control. This was obvious from the small number of people passing by. But Tongning didn't care as she headed straight for Qiu Jin. The bodyguards followed not too far behind. At that moment, Qiu Jin was sweeping his wife's grave. As soon as he saw Tongning, he stood up and smiled. I never thought you would actually come. I'm here to solve a problem, Tongning said as she removed her sunglasses. She then turned to Qiu Jin's wife's grave and bowed 3 times. Solve a problem? Did you know? Without the Mo family, my son can already have a family and a career. Qiu Jin said as he stared into Tongning's eyes. Then let me tell you a story. There was a famous female celebrity that had a crazy father and a 13-year-old illegitimate son. Because of her death, her father was beaten to death and her son was sent to an orphanage. 15 years later, he was sent to prison for theft and has yet to be released. I'm sure you're more familiar with that female celebrity than anyone else. In that case, who's going to avenge her? Aren't her father and her son human? Your wife and son are simply avenging you. After all, this world doesn't allow any darkness to exist. Without the Mo family, how far did you think you could go? Without the Mo family, how long did you think you could live? Qiu Jin, you don't need to be so upset. If you had walked the right path and done your job properly, your wife and son wouldn't have been implicated because of the Nangong family's investigation. Isn't it obvious who implicated them? It's bad enough that you implicated your wife and son, but now you're implicating someone else's wife and son? Shut up. Qiu Jin roared. Who gave you the guts to slander me like this? Qiu Jin, tell me your conditions. What do I have to do for you to stop? Stop. Have you ever thought about leaving after coming here today? Qiu Jin sneered. I don't care who implicated my wife. All I know is the Mo family are the culprit. I'm going to make the Mo family pay. Otherwise, all the years I've endured would have been for nothing. Tongning smiled calmly as she pulled out a yellow diary from her handbag. I found this in the old house you guys used to live in. I heard it was hidden in a crack in the wall. The house hasn't been maintained for many years, so it wasn't easy for me to get my hands on it. Don't you want to know what your wife's diary says? Did you think I'd fall for your tricks? You Mo family people love to argue. Qiu Jin yelled as he pointed to Tongning's nose. Chapter 1135. September 11th. That day, Qing Hong came looking for me and told me that Qiu Jin was working for Mr. Nangong. I suddenly felt scared because I was about to marry this man. Yet I didn't even know what his real occupation was. To protect him, I even scolded Qinghong away. But that night Qinghong died. I asked Qiujin what happened to Qinghong, and he told me it was an accident. In the dark, I trembled in fear because I wanted to call the police. I was really scared. Tongning ignored Qiujin's insults. Instead, she opened up her diary and read out one of the contents. October 13th, Little You. Today, I had another honest talk with Qiujin, but I realized he has no respect for life at all. I'm really disappointed. I really want to leave, but the doctor told me I'm pregnant. I suddenly don't know what to do. I think my parents are in heaven. They must hate me to death for being with a scumbag like him. I also hate myself. On the 6th of November, I made up my mind to leave because Qiujin was a complete demon. Why didn't he feel any remorse for what he had done? I couldn't forgive him anymore. I hate trash, especially trash that cheated on my feelings. Shut up. Qiujin yelled as soon as he heard Tongning read out these words. What do you know? Tongning did not continue. She simply closed the diary and smiled. Revenge for the woman you love and your unborn son? If I was your dead girlfriend and found out you used such a method to get revenge, I would hate you even more. Shut your mouth. Qiujin took a few steps forward angrily. So he immediately yelled, and all of his subordinates that were lying in ambush around the graveyard immediately stepped out. Tongning's bodyguards sensed the danger, so they quickly surrounded Tongning. Even though Qiujin had around 20 people on his side, Tongning's side was obviously outnumbered. Today, I want the Mo family to die with my wife and son. The person that should die the most is you. If you had walked the right path, your girlfriend wouldn't have died because of someone else's revenge. You are the one that caused her death. Nonsense. Qiujin retorted. Tongning did not continue to provoke him. Instead, she flipped to the last page of the diary. There were only 2 sentences written on it. May God help me leave this devil's side. Otherwise I'd rather die. I hate thugs. Kill her for me. Qiujin's eyes were bloodshot as if he had been completely enraged by Tongning. He actually dared to threaten to kill her in front of everyone. More than 20 people rushed over. It was indeed a spectacular sight, making one feel fearful. But Tongning remained calm as she stood in the same spot and asked, Did you really think you could touch me? You killed your wife and child, yet you keep saying that you want to frame someone else. You're not even a man. Why should I be afraid of you? What are you waiting for? Aren't you going to do it? The group of over 20 people moved closer to Tongning and the others and surrounded them. Sorry, superstar. Who told you to be Mo Ting's woman? Beat her to death. Qiujin's voice trembled as it echoed throughout the cemetery. However, at this time, 100 men dressed in black suits entered the cemetery in an orderly manner. Qiujin's men had no choice but to retreat. After all, who had ever seen a formation like this? Afterwards, Mo Ting stepped out from the crowd and approached Tongning. He then pulled her into his embrace. Are you okay? I'm fine. Tongning shook her head. This jerk is too stubborn. He refuses to admit his mistakes, Tongning said as she pointed to Qiujin with her chin. Tongning pointed her chin at Qiujin and said, You're a complete scumbag. You caused the death of your own wife and child, yet you're trying to push the blame onto someone else. Can't you handle it? Mo Ting lifted his head and looked at Qiujin as he asked in a deep voice, Who did you say you were going to beat to death? What's there to brag about when you're bullying someone with numbers? When dealing with trash, I don't mind being ruthless, Mo Ting replied. Plus, I don't need to be polite with you. Qiujin, even if you go back and train for another 100 years, you still won't be able to do anything to me. Since you insist on using the rules of the underworld, then let me teach you a lesson about the underworld style. If you want to make a move, fine. But I can guarantee that you won't be able to hurt a single hair on my body. In fact, you will pay with the lives of everyone here. Mo Ting, if you're so capable, fight me one-on-one. I don't need to dirty my hands because of you, Mo Ting replied. Afterwards, Tongning threw the diary at Qiujin. Since you don't believe me, you can slowly read through it and find out who killed your wife. Qiujin did not believe Tongning's words at all. He simply thought she was lying. But as soon as he picked up the diary and saw the familiar handwriting, He felt like he had been struck by lightning. It turned out, his fiancée really didn't like to hang out with gangsters. Back then, he thought she would be pleasantly surprised and think it was cool and hot-blooded. But who would have thought his fiancée had been plotting to leave him all this time? No, this couldn't be possible. Tongning must have made this up. There was no way he would believe her. So he tore the diary apart. But, to his surprise, a photo of the couple fell out of the diary. Along with the photo was a medical report. His fiancée's name was clearly written on it, and the content stated that she had agreed to an abortion. Could it be that before she died, she had already secretly taken the child? Did she hate him that much? After reading through the yellowed report, Qiujin knelt to the ground. His mind was a mess. He didn't know how to accept everything that had just happened. Uncle Qiu, should we attack? Give me an answer. Uncle Qiu. Mo Ting took the opportunity and gestured for a group of tall men to step forward. A moment later, the 20-odd men were all pressed against the ground, leaving only Qiujin kneeling in front of his fiancée's grave. Tongning lifted her head and looked at Mo Ting. However, Mo Ting shook his head. No one knew what Qiujin was planning. What if he had gone crazy? In reality, Mo Ting was right. Qiujin had indeed gone crazy. But he didn't do anything to anyone, he simply stabbed himself in the back of his hand with a knife. What have I been doing all these years? I'm such a fool. I actually thought you would be with me wholeheartedly. It turns out, you aborted the child a long time ago. Chapter 1136. And I was still delusional. I thought that if I followed Mr. Nangong, I would have a bright future. I would be able to give you the best life, and you would definitely look up to me. So, it turns out that you're looking down on me. What right do you have to look down on me? What right do you have? How could you do this to me? Do you know how torturous it was for me to carry this hatred for so many years? But in the end he was stabbed by you. How much did you hate me that you aborted the child? Tell me. She would rather die than be with you. How much do you think she hates you? You men think it's glorious, righteous and impressive, but to a woman you're just a thug. From her perspective, if she were to tell others about it, it would be embarrassing. That's why she was so ruthless. Your hands are stained with blood, and you still want to have happiness? That's impossible. There's karma in this world. That's why you've been played by yourself for so many years. Tongning's last sentence struck Qiujin's heart, and destroyed his last line of defense. After all, Qiujin never regretted joining the Nangong family. In fact, it was the thing that he was most proud of. But the thing that he was most proud of was the thing that hurt and shameful his fiancée the most. She even went as far as aborting their child. This shook Qiujin's firm belief. It seemed, for the rest of his life, he would have to struggle with this matter. What are people most afraid of? It wasn't a physical or psychological injury, but the belief that he had held on to for a long time had suddenly collapsed. It was actually wrong. Seeing Qiujin's crazy state, Qiujin's subordinates quickly walked out of the cemetery. From the looks of it, this man wasn't going to amount to much from now on. Meanwhile, the people that Mo Ting brought with him all retreated. Don't worry, the media won't hear a thing about what happened today, Mo Ting comforted. Let's go. Tongning turned to look at Qiujin and nodded her head. He's a stubborn person. Unfortunately, his stubbornness isn't in the right place. President Uncle Qiu isn't doing too well. As soon as the person that Nangong Quan had sent to gather information returned to Spring Fall, he reported the situation to Nangong Quan. He's been sitting in the cemetery on his own for 3 hours. No matter how we call for him, he won't respond. After hearing this, Nangong Quan turned around from the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at his subordinate. Did Tongning win? I don't know what Tongning did, but Uncle Qiu was already kneeling on the floor crying without even lifting a finger. Kill and destroy the heart. If a person had faith, if you didn't kill them, they would forever haunt you. But destroying one's heart was different. Once a person's heart was dead, they would no longer be a threat to anyone. This was where Tongning excelled. President Mo brought over 100 people with him to support Tongning. But not long after, they all left. As for the media, Not a single word was leaked and the matter was resolved cleanly. Bring Uncle Chiu back and take good care of him. Nangong Quan instructed his subordinates without saying anything else. Since the couple had already dealt with Uncle Chiu, he didn't have to show up again and hurt his relationship with Uncle Chiu. So, he could now spend more time dealing with the matter between him and Su Yuran. Hatred could be used to help him grow, but it shouldn't be used as a weapon. After returning home, Tongning was exhausted as she leaned against Emoting's chest. Do you know how worried I was after you went into the cemetery on your own? Emoting asked. I really regret putting you in danger. You didn't need to do that. Aren't I fine? I simply wanted to have a good sleep. Tongning yawned as she snuggled into Emoting's embrace. She then closed her eyes and fell asleep. Emoting sat on the sofa without moving as he allowed Tongning to fall asleep. Even though his limbs were stiff, he did not wake his wife up. It had been a long time since he hugged Tongning like this. Soon, Su Yuran returned with the child and Tongning woke up in a daze. Seeing Emoting not moving, she could tell that his body was stiff. But he never said a word about it. So, Tongning helped him rub his body. From now on, I won't dare to sleep on you. You'll wake up as soon as the child comes back, Emoting laughed. I can't do anything about you, Tongning complained. Afterwards, she noticed Su Yuran was carrying some luggage on her back, so she asked curiously, Where are you going with all these things? My mother kicked me out. Su Yuran smiled awkwardly. But don't worry, I've already found a place to stay. It's not far from here and I won't delay the kids from school. That's not what I meant. I just wanted to ask if there's anything you need my help with. Tongning smiled gently. From now on, you don't need to be so careful when you take Zishi and Zichen out. The matter with the Nangong family has been resolved. I'm doing well at the moment. Thank you, Miss Tang. On the surface, Su Yuran appeared to be an open-minded person. She would never ask for help from others. This was the attitude that she developed during her time in the military. Before she tried her best, she would never ask for help. Afterwards, she moved into the apartment that she found that day. The environment wasn't bad. Most importantly, it wasn't far from Hyatt Regency, so it would be more convenient for her to pick the kids up. That night, little Eggshell lay in bed after her bath. As she watched Nangong Quan holding a storybook, she immediately pounced on him. Big sister has already moved, why haven't you done anything yet? Are you in a hurry? Nangong Quan looked at his daughter as he helped her back onto the bed. I want big sister to take me to and from school too. I'll be very happy, little Eggshell said as she pouted. Plus, big sister is very cool and looks very compatible with daddy. Really? Of course. Little Eggshell nodded her head. Little Eggshell, hold on a little longer. We can't scare big sister, right? Nangong Quan never expected that little Eggshell would like Su Yuran so much. Fine. Now that Nangong Quan had moved and his mother-in-law had given the order, it was time for him to make his move. However, he hoped that Su Yuran wouldn't reject him too badly. He wasn't a romantic person, and didn't know how to do beautiful things. But he could appear when Su Yuran needed him the most. But did she understand? To understand and get close to a person, you had to rely on your heart. But Lu Che accidentally found out that Nangong Quan knew about the Su family. He found it interesting, so he told Emoting and Tongning about it. Emoting did not react, but Tongning was a little surprised. Is Nangong Quan trying to steal Su Yuran from me? I'm not going to let him have his way. Chapter 1137. Soon, 3 months passed and Miss Chow returned from her studies. Tongning immediately sent someone to the airport to welcome her. At the same time, Tongning's new post-production team, Starshine, was completed and they were currently working together. Of course, there was still a lot of time for them to get used to it. By this time, the Ant Queen 2 was ready and Tongning had already selected the rest of the actors. All that was left was to arrange their schedules and auditions. Not long after, Hai Rui officially announced the cast of the Ant Queen 2. As usual, Tongning would be producing and Xiaoman would be directing. There would also be international martial arts superstar Old Long, new actress Fei Er, the popular young actor Luo Sheng and of course the main antagonist Emoting. As soon as the cast was announced, the public immediately reacted. There was a lot to look forward to. The addition of Old Long was already a pleasant surprise, but this time, Mo Ting was going to take part as well. In fact, he was going to play the main antagonist. At the same time, the poster for The Ant Queen 2 clearly stated the theme. It was time to test the teacher-student relationship. In other words, the main plot of The Ant Queen 2 was to focus on the teacher-student relationship. Fans left comments excitedly urging Tongning to start filming. I like Tongning's work because she doesn't follow the path of heroes and beauties. Instead, she gives up on romance. Instead, she explores relationships on a deeper level and makes me feel comfortable. Last time it was a father and daughter. This time, it's a teacher-student relationship. Just thinking about it, it's a lot to watch. I wonder how this international superstar will be able to do against a big monster. Am I the only one that thinks President Mo's antagonist will be interesting? In the Ant Queen one, his relationship was already so smooth. I can't wait to see him explode. Anticipation +1. Anticipation +2. They've only announced that they've finished filming now. When are they going to start? How torturous. Let's go look through all of President Mo and Mo Ting's works right now. We should be able to last a little longer. I think Tongning's involvement in the film and television industry has brought new life to the industry. I think the entire film industry should thank her. She simply did what she wanted to do. She wanted to fulfill Qiao Sen's wish. She wanted to stand side by side with Mo Ting at the top of the entertainment industry. Had she finally achieved it? Afterwards, someone researched Qiao Man's background and found out that she was actually Qiao Sen's daughter. On top of that, she was a famous photographer. In order to fulfill her father's last wish, she was prepared to dedicate the rest of her life to sci-fi. She originally thought that the public would have some objections towards a newcomer director like her, but surprisingly, everyone was very tolerant of her. This was because as a director that wanted to be like her father, she was willing to give it her all. As a result, news about The Ant Queen 2 was everywhere. As Nan Gongquan sat in his office, he couldn't help but feel that the Mo couple were indeed strong and worthy opponents. President, should we start the second round of promotions for Parasite? Nan Gongquan shook his head, indicating that the timing wasn't right. There's no need. Focus on the production of Parasite. The final result is the best promotion. I understand. This is the perfect time for a sci-fi film. Although I don't want to admit it, Tongning has made a huge contribution, Nan Gongquan's assistant said. Otherwise, let's not talk about now. Even 20 years from now, Beijing may not even produce a decent sci-fi film. What do you think of Bai Zheni? Bai Zheni is indeed talented. The production didn't find the wrong person. That's good. Nan Gongquan nodded. He had high hopes for Parasite. Even if it couldn't compete with Hai Rui's The Ant Queen 2, as long as it was a good film, it wouldn't be buried. Afterwards, Nan Gongquan packed his things and drove over to Qiu Jin's home. But Qiu Jin's subordinate told him, Uncle Qiu passed away 10 days ago. Why didn't anyone tell me? Nan Gongquan yelled. Why didn't anyone report such a big thing? Because Uncle Qiu passed away very suddenly. He hung himself, but the night before he passed away, he told me that he wanted to go overseas. Who would have guessed? Qiu Jin's subordinate replied. I even saw Uncle Qiu's packed luggage. Then, why didn't you call the police? The police came over and confirmed that he suffocated to death. He also left a suicide note, so they didn't investigate further. But, I still feel like something's not right. Why would someone that was about to go overseas suddenly choose to die? Plus, he only left a single sentence in his suicide note. Nan Gongquan was also in disbelief, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what was wrong. Just like that, Qiu Jin mysteriously disappeared. Yet, not a single person told him about this. He originally thought Qiu Jin was in a bad mood and needed to recover, so he didn't ask about it. But who would have thought? Did you check Uncle Qiu's room in detail? Did you find anything suspicious? Nothing, I checked it. After speaking, the bald subordinate pulled out a phone from his drawer and handed it to Nan Gongquan. This is Uncle Qiu's phone. I checked his call history. On the night he tried to commit suicide, Uncle Chiu spoke to an unknown number for half an hour. What's his identity? I called him and asked. He bought car insurance. Nan Gongquan received the phone without saying a word. He suddenly wondered if there was someone else behind Uncle Chiu's back. But before he had time to investigate further, he received a phone call from Su Yuran's mother. Mr. Nangong, can you please take Yuran to the registration office as soon as possible? Auntie, what's wrong? Her father's business failed and he's targeting her. Nan Gongquan's heart sank, but this wasn't what he was concerned about. Your voice is very weak. I'm fine. I'm fine. This definitely didn't sound like she was fine. After hanging up the phone, Nan Gongquan directly left Chiu Jin's home and drove over to Su Yuran's classroom. Afterwards, he directly dragged her out. Mr. Nangong, are you sure? Did you drag the wrong person? Your mother might be in danger. You should go home first, Nan Gongquan said as he pulled out his phone and showed Su Yuran a phone number. After confirming that it was her mother's phone number, Su Yuran turned to leave. But Nan Gongquan held her back. I'll take you there. It'll be faster. Although Su Yuran was full of questions, she didn't have a better option. So she boarded Nan Gongquan's car. It was strange. How did a stranger find out that her mother was in danger? Chapter 1138. How do you know my mother? We have a bit of a history, Nan Gongquan replied. By the way, don't trust your auntie so much. Su Yuran didn't know what to say. She was simply worried about her mother. Nan Gongquan knew that she was nervous, so he sped up the car and drove her straight back to the Su family home. To avoid suspicion, Nan Gongquan did not accompany Su Yuran inside. Instead, he stood guard at the door in case Su Yuran needed his help. He never imagined that after observing this woman for so long, the first time he spoke to her was because of her mother. Su Yuran had no time to think about Nan Gongquan's problem, as she ran straight into her mother's room. As soon as she pushed open the door, she found her lawyer auntie kicking her mother who was lying on the floor. What are you doing? Su Yuran asked her auntie angrily. The woman didn't expect Su Yuran to return home at a time like this, so she looked at her in a panic. Yuran, why are you back? If I didn't come back, I wouldn't have known that my auntie was this good. Su Yuran rushed over, picked up her mother and placed her in a wheelchair. Mom, are you okay? Mother Su held onto her chest. At first, she wanted to say something, but as soon as she opened her mouth, blood flowed out. Su Yuran was so frightened that she immediately called the ambulance. But as she carried her mother out of the Su family home to wait for help, she noticed Nan Gongquan's car was still parked outside. What's wrong? Although Su Yuran tried her best to hold back her tears, she almost burst into tears. My mom's hurt is serious. I need to take her to the hospital. Get in the car. Okay. Su Yuran immediately boarded the car. At this time, her auntie also stepped out. Su Yuran glared at her auntie hatefully and simply said, I'll deal with you when I get back. After speaking, Su Yuran boarded the car and allowed Nan Gongquan to take the mother and daughter to the hospital. After an examination by the doctor, they discovered that Mother Su had been beaten up in multiple places and her ribs were almost broken. And the culprit behind all this was her auntie. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed it. Why did you warn me to be careful of my auntie? While Mother Su was receiving treatment, Su Yuran asked Nan Gongquan, Do you know something? When your mother called me just now, I heard some noise on the phone. It was a woman's voice insulting your mother and calling her big sister. So that was how it was. Su Yuran understood. Thank you for today, Mr. Nangong. I'll treat you to a meal another day. But right now, I need to figure out what's going on. I can stay. I do have some history with your mother. If you don't believe me, you can ask her when she wakes up. Nan Gongquan insisted on staying at the hospital because he had to prevent Su Yuran's father from causing trouble. Su Yuran was also concerned about this, so she nodded her head. Thank you. The couple sat in silence for an hour. But for some reason, Su Yuran suddenly felt safe with a man by her side. She had never felt so safe before. But this time, she actually felt safe. All because Nan Gongquan was sitting next to her. Soon Mother Su woke up. As soon as Su Yuran walked into the hospital room and saw her mother, she burst into tears. Why didn't you tell me earlier? What's going on? Why did Auntie treat you like that? Your auntie is also your father's woman, Mother Su finally said after holding back for so long. They hooked up a long time ago. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Su Yuran asked as she hit her chest. I always thought she was a good person. I thought. Yuran, there aren't many good people in this world. Every adult has their own interests. Your mother has already seen through this. That's why I don't care how others treat me. But I care, Su Yuran replied. I care a lot. From today onwards, if anyone dares to bully you again, I will kill them. It's no longer appropriate for Auntie to return to the Su family home. You can stay at my place for the time being, Nangong Quan suddenly said as he stood behind the mother and daughter. I don't have anyone at home, just my daughter. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. There's nothing inappropriate about it, Nangong Quan replied. The two of you need a safe place. But, we're not related to you in any way. To be honest, my daughter really likes Yuran. Nangong Quan used his daughter as a shield. Nangong Quan used his daughter as a shield. If he mentioned anything about marriage or dating, he would be taking advantage of Nangong Quan's misfortune. So he didn't want to force Su Yuran to be with him. If possible, I would like to hire Yuran to be my daughter's tutor. All you need to do is spend time with my daughter on the weekends. That would solve your problem. But, you know that I'm a tutor for the Mo family, right? Su Yuran asked. I know, Nangong Quan nodded. Then why did you? You are you and the Mo family is Mo, Nangong Quan replied straightforwardly. Nangong Quan replied straightforwardly. Don't be shy. In your current state, you don't need to maintain your pride. It's not like I'm your enemy. In that case, thank you, Mr. Nangong. Su Yuran did not say anything, but Mother Su directly agreed. Of course, Nangong Quan was well aware that Su Yuran was currently thinking about how to deal with the Su family, especially her father and auntie, who had a human face but a human heart. As Mother Su was injured, Su Yuran called Tongning to ask for a day off. After understanding the situation, Tongning told Su Yuran to take good care of her mother. As for the Mo family's two little devils, she would send someone else to pick them up. Ting! Do you think Nangong Quan is currently with Yuran? Are you actually interested in their relationship? Mo Ting asked helplessly as he looked at his wife. Don't you think it's interesting? Nangong Quan doesn't like anyone else, yet he's interested in my tutor. I'm not looking down on Yuran. I'm just saying that Nangong Quan's taste doesn't seem to fit the heavy makeup of the entertainment industry. Tongning laughed. I can't believe he's actually getting involved with a skilled woman like Yuran. It's going to be interesting to watch. Are you going to step in and stop him? I don't have the time to do that. Tongning laughed. Nangong Quan is actually a tough guy. If he ends up with Yuran, I'd be happy to see it happen. I heard that Yuran's life hasn't been easy either. If she ends up with Nangong Quan, perhaps her life will change, just like how I married you. Chapter 1139. That night, Nangong Quan instructed his assistant to prepare a room for the mother and daughter. As soon as little Eggshell heard about this, she was ecstatic. So she clung onto Nangong Quan and asked, Is Big Sis coming to be my mother? Is she coming to live with us? After hearing little Eggshell's question, Nangong Quan placed her on his lap and explained, Eggshell, Daddy is simply helping Big Sis to protect her and her mother from being bullied by outsiders. Big Sis isn't going to be your mother. At least, not yet. So you need to be obedient and don't talk nonsense in front of Big Sis, okay? Little Eggshell thought for a moment before she placed her hands on her hips and replied, For the sake of Daddy's happiness, I'll endure it for now. Nangong Quan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at his daughter's mischievous expression. But it was because of this treasure that he couldn't bear to part with her. At least, if he had to choose between revenge and his daughter, he would choose his daughter without hesitation. Afterwards, Nangong Quan coaxed little Eggshell to sleep. But as he returned to his room to shower and get some rest, his mind kept replaying everything that happened that day at the Su family home. Su Yuran's experience, Su Yuran's reaction and Su Yuran's emotions. It was all in his mind and he couldn't get it out of his head. In fact, he even imagined that Su Yuran wasn't having a good time at the hospital. Yuran, are you still angry? Mother Su asked after noticing that her daughter hadn't said a word all night. Am I? Mom, how could you endure it? Su Yuran asked as she lifted her head and sobbed. How could you endure such a huge injustice? It's been so many years since your mother was crippled. What haven't you seen? So there's nothing to be angry about. After all, there's nothing I can do, Mother Su said in self-mockery. Mother Su said in self-mockery. I just want to protect you. I just want you to be safe. Nothing else matters. Mom, I will definitely get revenge for you. Mother Su smiled, but she did not respond to Su Yuran. After all, everything she did was because she wanted Su Yuran to have a good life. From the looks of it, Nangong Quan was the perfect candidate for her son-in-law. So, she could only hope that the two of them would end up together. The next morning, Su Yuran was woken up by the sound of her phone ringing. Seeing that it was her auntie calling, Su Yuran immediately stepped out of her hospital room and walked into the hallway to pick up the call. Yuran, your father wants you to come home. I'll be right back, Su Yuran replied before she put down her phone and returned to the hospital room. Who called? Auntie Su asked. Mom, I'm going to go to work first. I need to pick up Tongning's 2 babies. After that, I'll come back and take care of you, Su Yuran explained casually. Go ahead. Mama Su waved her hand. If I have a problem, I'll find a nurse. After leaving the hospital, Su Yuran hailed a taxi and returned to the Su family home. However, Nangong Quan had already arrived at the hospital. As soon as he saw Su Yuran rushing out, he immediately chased after her. After entering the Su family home, Su Yuran spotted her and her mother's suitcases in the middle of the living room. Father Su and her auntie were sitting on the sofa in the living room, sipping on their morning tea as if nothing had happened. Since you're back, you should take your and your mother's things with you, Father Su said. The divorce papers are also on the dining table. Take them with you. Yuran, stop hesitating. Before your father regrets his decision, you should leave, Su Yuran's auntie said anxiously. This is your last chance. I don't quite understand what you're saying, auntie. Your father has recently run into some problems with his business and is currently waiting for a cash flow. But your father's business partner said that if you're willing to marry him, he's willing to invest money to help your father overcome his difficulties. But he's an old man in his 50s. How could I watch you jump into a pit of fire? So I begged your father. It wasn't easy for him to agree to let you go. In other words, Auntie had already done everything she could for Su Yuran, so she should take her and your mother's things and leave. Auntie, are you trying to say that my father almost sold me off? Yuran, you can't say that. The Su family has treated you well. Shut up, Su Yuran said to her auntie. Su Yuran said to her auntie in a low voice. You might be shameless, but I'm not. Auntie must be trying to make a name for herself by stealing her brother-in-law and kicking her first wife out of the house. Did you think that anyone would believe you? Auntie, don't you know who I'm working for? Su Yuran laughed. Don't you know that I'm tutoring Tongning's 2 children? Su Yuran's auntie froze as she looked at Father Su. You wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Su Yuran's eyes turned red as she ran over to her auntie and grabbed her by her clothes as she dragged her up the stairs. I'm going to throw you down from the 2nd floor right now and cripple your legs. I want to see if the person downstairs will still like you. Su Yuran, how dare you? Father Su yelled from downstairs. Yuran, don't do anything reckless. Su Yuran's auntie was no match for the skilled Su Yuran. Su Yuran, do you want to go to jail? If you go to jail, I'm going to torture your mother. These words successfully angered Su Yuran and struck fear in her heart. She wasn't afraid of anything, but she was afraid that if something happened to her, no one would take care of her mother. Let go. Let go. Perhaps, because Su Yuran had been inside for too long, Nangong Quan was worried that something might have happened to her. So he didn't care if people would gossip about him as he directly entered the Su family home. But the front door wasn't closed. So the first thing that Nangong Quan saw was Su Yuran grabbing onto a woman and standing on the second-floor steps while her father roared in anger. Yuran, let go. It's not worth it. As soon as Su Yuran heard these sudden words, she turned to look at Nangong Quan in surprise. Listen to me, I can help you get what you want. But it's not worth it if I don't sacrifice myself. Su Yuran grabbed onto her auntie's shirt, but in the end, she released her grip and pushed her to the side. Afterwards, she walked down the steps and approached Nangong Quan. Why are you here? I'm here to take you away from here. Nangong Quan replied as he placed his arm around her shoulder. Since you're leaving the Su family, it's time to cut all ties. Who are you? Father Su finally reacted and asked about Nangong Quan's identity. Chapter 1140. Nangong Quan did not say a word as he handed Father Su his business card and retreated to Su Yuran's side. From the looks of it, your luggage has already been packed. In that case, we don't need to waste any more effort. Thank you, Mr. Su, Nangong Quan said politely. As soon as Father Su saw Nangong Quan's business card, he realized that this was the CEO of Springfall Film and Television that was mentioned in the news recently. In fact, he also ran a technology company in the US. May I ask who Mr. Nangong and my daughter are? Yuran is my fiancé. I've never had the chance to visit her, but I never thought I'd encounter a situation like this. Nangong Quan laughed before he wrapped his arm around Su Yuran's waist and turned around. Let's go. Mr. Nangong, please wait. By the way, Mr. Su, I think it's time for you to receive a lawyer's letter. Also, Ms. Su, you cheated on your wife and abused your disabled wife. Someone needs to step in. I know that Yuran's auntie is a famous lawyer, but no matter how famous you are, you can't go up against my entire team of lawyers. From now on, Yuran has nothing to do with the Su family. Mr. Su, if I find out that you've contacted Yuran or Auntie Su in private again, I'm sorry, I will make you suffer. Originally, when I found out that the Su family was in a bit of trouble, I wanted to offer my help. But from the looks of it, it's better to give the money to Yuran as pocket money. What do you say, Yuran? Su Yuran was currently in Nangong Quan's arms. Although she didn't know why Nangong Quan wanted to help her, she was grateful that he had stepped forward. At this time, Father Su suddenly changed his attitude towards Su Yuran and softened. Yuran, can you lend me that money? Even if it's a loan, I will definitely return it to you. However, Su Yuran simply smiled. If I really had that much money, I would use it to fight my mother's lawsuit. I would at least take half of your assets. Even though I don't really care. As soon as Father Su heard this, his face turned pale. Yuran, don't treat Dad like this. Yuran, you want me to help you? Sure, you know what I want. Su Yuran said as she looked at her auntie. Of course, Su Qingsong's father understood what she meant. He immediately raised his hand and swore. I will make her get out of my sight right now and never appear in the Su family again. That's enough? What she owes my mother is far more than just getting lost. Qizhong, how could you do this to me? Su Yuran's auntie looked at Father Su in shock. Are you going to sacrifice me for the sake of money? Nothing is more important than the company now. When I have nothing, I don't believe that you will still be willing to follow me. Father Su snorted. I truly love you. For you I even divorced. Where do you want me to go now? I don't care where you go. As long as I can help Yuran vent her anger. Father Su suddenly acted strangely righteous. Leave now. Leave. Father Su didn't just say it verbally, he even used his hands to push Su Yuran's auntie away. Didn't the tables turn a little too suddenly? Su Yuran's auntie never imagined that after so many years of hard work, just as she was about to succeed, Su Yuran's fiancé would suddenly appear out of nowhere and ruin her plans. Qizhong, don't chase me away, okay? As she watched the two put on an act, Su Yuran simply felt one thing. How disgusting. Let's go then. Nangong Quan wasn't interested in watching the two women push each other, so he directly helped Su Yuran carry her luggage. No, Yuran, don't go yet. Mr. Nangong, look. You want me to help you? Sure, it depends on how you treat my mother. After saying this, Su Yuran turned around and followed Nangong Quan out of the Su family home, without looking back. Regardless of everything, Nangong Quan had helped her today. Ever since she was born, she had never been able to hold her head up high in front of Father Su. Have you vented the anger in your heart? Hearing Nan Gongquan's question, Su Yuran shook her head. Even if these two men were hacked to pieces, it wouldn't be enough to vent my mother's anger. If I told you that I could continue to help you vent your anger, would you make what I just said become true? Nan Gongquan asked. For some reason, even though he had told himself to stay calm, he suddenly felt like he was being too rude. Seeing that Su Yuran didn't know what to say, Nan Gongquan immediately said, "Sorry, I scared you." "No, I wanted to ask, what did you say?" "About my fiancé." Nan Gongquan replied, "Don't misunderstand, I didn't make this decision on a whim. I've been thinking about it for a few months now." I know you're not familiar with me, but seeing Nan Gongquan's nervousness, Su Yuran suddenly laughed. Haha. Is it funny? Nan Gongquan was a little upset. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have asked. "Mr. Nangong, I can tell that you're a good person, and I'm grateful that you helped me today. But you're taking advantage of me." "Am I?" "But I'm serious," Nan Gongquan emphasized. "I don't mind being friends with you, but isn't it a little strange for us to be engaged so quickly?" It's the first time they've met, yet they've already registered their marriage. After hearing this, Su Yuran finally realized how serious Nan Gongquan was. So, she put away her smile and looked into his eyes in seriousness. In reality, deep down, she had the urge to drag Nan Gongquan into a marriage. But logic told her that it wasn't possible. She knew that she was still immersed in Nan Gongquan's charm. But she didn't want to miss out on a man like him. So she smiled. "Let's pretend we went on a blind date today. Let's start from a blind date and get to know each other better. What do you think?" After hearing this, Nan Gongquan let out a sigh of relief. "As long as you agree." To have such a rich man by her side and help her over and over again, as a woman, it was no wonder that she was tempted. After all, every woman loved a fairy tale. But Su Yuran was well aware of her own situation. Nan Gongquan was rich and powerful. He could find any woman he wanted. So, she needed to find out if Nan Gongquan was acting on a whim, or if he was serious about their relationship. After all, everything happened too suddenly. Little did she know, Nan Gongquan had been secretly watching her for a few months now. Chapter 1141. After the couple came to an agreement, they decided to first pick Mother Su up from the hospital. But Su Yuran was worried that Mother Su would overthink things, so before they arrived at the hospital, she asked for Nan Gongquan's opinion. Can we not tell anyone about our relationship for now?" Nan Gongquan turned to look at Su Yuran and nodded his head. Although he was a little disappointed, he still respected Su Yuran. "I understand." "Thank you." Su Yuran did not say it out loud, but Nan Gongquan understood the meaning behind her words. It would be troublesome to break up in the future. So, in front of Mother Su, the two women were extremely polite. It was as if Su Yuran didn't care about what they had discussed earlier in the car. To make things easier for Mother Su, her room was downstairs and Su Yuran's room was upstairs, opposite Nan Gongquan's and next to Little Eggshells. If Little Eggshell sees you when she comes home from school, she'll be so happy. But I don't think it's a good idea to do this. Su Yuran was worried about what others thought of her. There's only me and Little Eggshell here. We're the only two people in the Nangong family. Who would say anything? You and Auntie can stay here. I can temporarily sleep in the company's apartment. I'll leave Little Eggshell to you. As Nan Gongquan spoke, he grabbed a few sets of clothes from his room and prepared to take them to the office. Don't worry. Su Yuran nodded her head. She was actually grateful for Nan Gongquan's thoughtfulness. He had helped her avoid the awkwardness of seeing Nan Gongquan. Moreover, she couldn't stay here for long. She had to find a place as soon as possible and settle down with Mother Su. Between the two of them, they were still so polite. However, it was precisely this kind of ambiguous feeling that made people even more addicted. That night, Little Eggshell returned home full of anticipation. Sure enough, she saw the big sister she wanted. Wow, Daddy didn't lie to me. Big sister can really keep me company. Little Eggshell, don't be rude. Greet them first, Nan Gongquan said. Little Eggshell put down her backpack and politely walked over to Mother Su. She greeted her grandmother before she circled around Su Yuran. Actually, Su Yuran also liked Little Eggshell. So she was quite lucky because the two Mo family treasures were also very obedient. By the way, why don't I go resign from Tongning's job? Otherwise, there's no need. I don't dislike the couple. Plus, you need friends. By being friends with Tongning, he could learn a lot and receive protection. There was nothing bad about it. But your Nangong family and Mo family. While Little Eggshell and Mother Su weren't looking, Nangong Quan whispered beside Su Yuran's ear. Is this considered being considerate of me? Su Yuran's face turned red as she lowered her head. I just don't think what I'm doing is right. To be able to earn money from the hands of my enemies is also a kind of ability. You don't need to resign. After speaking, Nangong Quan lifted his shirt and said to Su Yuran, I'll leave Little Eggshell to you tonight. Daddy, where are you going? Go to the company to work overtime. Tonight, Big Sister will tell you a story and coax you to sleep. Nangong Quan originally thought that Little Eggshell would be disappointed. But to his surprise, she was unusually excited. It seemed he was destined to be lonely that night. Mr. Nangong, it's already so late. Take care of yourself. Yuran, we are guests. How could we chase the host away? Mother Su saw through Nangong Quan's intentions, so she quickly said, We've done everything right, there's nothing to hide. Mr. Nangong, you can just say that we're distant cousins. That way, there won't be any problems. What do you think? Daddy, I can't sleep when you're not home. Little Eggshell's mischievous mind began to think. Then don't go to the office. Su Yuran said calmly. Nangong Quan nodded his head. In reality, deep down he didn't want to stay at the office on his own either. Afterwards, Su Yuran helped Mother Su sleep and told her everything that happened at the Su family home that day. After hearing this, Mother Su laughed. Give me the divorce papers to sign. Right now the Su family is begging you. Mom, none of this belongs to me. Yuran, did you think I covet something from Mr. Nangong? I'm not that kind of person. I know that we're only staying here for a few days. I'm sure you'll find a good place to settle down. After hearing this, Su Yuran relaxed and nodded her head. Since you've thought it through, then we'll definitely get a divorce. A moment later, Su Yuran tried to sneak back into her room, but Nangong Quan's bedroom door was wide open. Su Yuran knocked on the door and reminded him. Do you want me to close it for you? No need, I'm used to it. Little Eggshell will come in anyway, Nangong Quan replied. You should get some rest. But, aren't you afraid that I'll see something I shouldn't? This man didn't know how to avoid suspicion. After all, there were two female guests in his home. If Eggshell can't see anything, then you won't either. Don't worry. After speaking, Nangong Quan returned to his work. From the looks of it, taking over Springfall was a lot of pressure for Nangong Quan. Su Yuran did not continue to disturb him. Instead, she quietly returned to her room and lay down on the unfamiliar bed. Everything that was happening in front of her seemed so surreal. Nangong Quan lifted his head and looked at the door opposite him. He deliberately left it open so that he could appear in front of Su Yuran at any time. Wasn't that what love was all about? You wanted to see the other person at all times. The next day, Su Yuran returned to her normal work schedule. However, before she picked up the Mo twins, she first dropped Little Eggshell off at school before returning to pick up the twins. As a result, a few days later, Tongning noticed that Su Yuran was also taking care of Little Eggshell. So she said to Su Yuran, if the Nangong family doesn't mind, you can take Little Eggshell with you and pick up my two sons. We can go to school together, and save you the trouble of running back and forth. After hearing this, Su Yuran was shocked. You found out. Did you think you could hide it from me? I'm sorry, Miss Tang. It's fine, I don't mind. Plus, my two rascals still owe Little Eggshell a life-saving favor, Tongning said with a mysterious smile. From now on, you can bring Little Eggshell along to pick up Zishi and Zichen. Chapter 1142. Although this was what Tongning said, Su Yuran did not do it. After all, She cared more about Nangong Kwan's feelings. To be exact, she had unknowingly become more concerned about Nangong Kwan's feelings. So, she ended up taking Little Eggshell and the Mo brothers to school separately. She had been staying at the Nangong family home for a few days now, but she hadn't actually seen Nangong Kwan that much. After all, he was quite busy. He had just returned to Beijing, so he didn't have as many years of experience as Mo Ting did. So he had to do everything himself. Plus, Little Eggshell had someone to take care of, so Nangong Kwan had more time to focus on work. This made Su Yuran waver a little. She felt like Nangong Kwan was simply saying it on a whim. But that night, just as she was about to return to her room, she bumped into Nangong Kwan on the stairs. As their eyes met, Su Yuran smiled. Just as she was about to return to her room, Nangong Kwan called out to her. "Are you free tomorrow night?" "Huh. Do you want to go watch a movie?" Nangong Kwan asked in seriousness. Su Yuran was a little surprised, but she quickly nodded her head. "Okay, let's meet outside the theater at 9 p.m. Since he couldn't let Little Eggshell and Mother Su know, they had to go their separate ways. So, Nangong Kwan nodded his head and returned to his room. Watch a movie. Su Yuran was a little annoyed by Nangong Kwan. This man had promised to treat her like a blind date. Yet he had been busy with work for a few days and claimed that he wasn't interested in her. Now he was asking her to watch a movie. Was this a man's trick? Was he playing hard to get? Regardless, Su Yuran still dressed up a little. She put on a little black dress and even tried on high heels. Although it was difficult to walk, she still arrived at the theater punctually at 9 p.m. By this time, Nangong Kwan had already arrived. Although he did not say a word when he saw Su Yuran dressed up like this, it was obvious that he was more used to her t-shirt and jeans. She looked more energetic that way. "From now on, let's not go out like this." After hearing this, Su Yuran nodded her head. "Okay." She also hated high heels. "Let's go in then." After speaking, Nangong Kwan extended his hand towards Su Yuran. Originally, he could have just sat in the VIP room and watched a movie with Su Yuran and Tongning. But he felt that Su Yuran preferred to get to know each other in a way that was close to life. So even though they were about to be recognized, he insisted on taking Su Yuran to the cinema. At this time, a black car was parked not too far from the entrance of the theater. Inside the car sat an old man in his 60s with a head of white hair. As he watched Nangong Kwan and Su Yuran disappear into the distance, he cursed, "Useless things." Instead of seeking revenge, he spent all his time flirting with girls. "Sir, we are about to set off. Let's go." The old man stomped his walking stick and directly ordered the driver to set off. "Investigate this woman's identity later." "Yes. My grandson has grown up and has completely forgotten the hatred of the Nangong family. But I won't forget. Fortunately, I can still do it myself. If I wait for the Nangong family to avenge me, I probably won't be able to do it in this lifetime." Looking at Nangong Kwan now, it was obvious why Qiu Jin was so useless back then. So he deserved to die. At this time, Tongning and Mo Ting did not receive any news that Elder Nangong had already been released from prison. After all, everyone assumed that he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Even Nangong Kwan didn't know about his grandfather's current situation. Because Elder Nangong had performed many meritorious deeds in prison and had his sentence reduced 4 times, he even made new friends. So as soon as he was released, he changed his name and did not tell anyone. After all, he didn't want to trust anyone and was afraid that his enemies would seek revenge on him. It wasn't easy for him to recover from his illness in the US. When he heard that his grandson had returned, he originally thought that he would wait for him to seek justice for him. Who would have thought? All he saw was Nangong Kwan's love affair. What a disappointment. As expected, he could only rely on himself. He wanted to see just how impenetrable the Mo family that was led by Mo Ting was. Meanwhile, over at Tongning's side, preparations for the Ant Queen 2 were all set. All they were waiting for was a good day to start filming. The newly selected actors knew that acting in Tongning's film wasn't easy, so they were unusually humble and hardworking. Luo Sheng in particular had long been looking forward to acting in Tongning's film. Although he was personally discovered by Tongning, Tongning never chose roles based on favoritism. So even if she personally brought him out, Tongning wouldn't consider him if he wasn't suitable. Of course, Tongning was personally involved in choosing the main cast and crew. But what about the rest of the crew? Elder Nangong used all sorts of channels to find out about Tongning's progress. But he only had one motive: to infiltrate the explosives team. If there was a chance for him to personally make a move, he definitely had to infiltrate the department that didn't seem suspicious, but had a lot of potential. All he had to do was arrange an accident, and Mo Ting would be able to survive. Because he had to hide his identity and not be recognized, Elder Nangong didn't even want to see his own grandson. However, he would occasionally tail him and discover that he was completely immersed in his love affair. Let's pick a good day. The Ant Queen 2-Foot can officially start filming. Late at night, before the couple had gone to sleep, Tongning said in a daze as she nestled in Mo Ting's arms, "I can't wait to see you act as the villain." Mo Ting gently stroked Tongning's back as his lips curved upwards. As long as it was his wife's wish, he would definitely satisfy it. Get some rest first. Let's discuss the time tomorrow. Ting, although I know you're tired, I selfishly hope that you'll appear in every single one of my sci-fi films. You need to be my professional client. You'll only appear in my films. Just like how you'll only be my manager for the rest of your life. Mo Ting enjoyed this special method of possession because it meant that in Tongning's heart, he would always be one of a kind. I'll do as you wish. After hearing this, Tongning suddenly opened her eyes and looked up at Mo Ting with a little infatuation and lust. Mo Ting was deeply attracted by the look in her eyes. Chapter 1143. Elder Nangong made a lot of friends while he was in prison. So, after he was released, he received help from his friends and spent a long time recovering from his illness in the US. Now that he was back, he used the surname Zeng to appear in front of the public. He even obtained a certificate to be an explosives technician, so that he could sneak into Tongning's team. As for Nangong Quan, he was going to pretend that he didn't have a grandson. After watching the film, Nangong Quan and Su Yuran's relationship became a little closer. Originally, they both had ulterior motives for the film. Su Yuran simply liked having Nangong Quan by her side, but Nangong Quan didn't like watching American popcorn movies. He simply wanted to keep her company. That night, the couple returned home together. But as they arrived at the front door, Su Yuran said to Nangong Quan, "I'm going up first. You can come back later. I'm afraid little Eggshell is asleep by now. But my mom might not be." Su Yuran stuck her head out of the car and looked in the direction of Mother Su's bedroom. Seeing that the lights were off, she relaxed. "Okay, I'll get out of the car first." As Nangong Quan looked at her cautious expression, he did not get angry. He hoped that Su Yuran could experience the beauty of being in a relationship and not end up becoming an engaged couple like she said. Even though, in his heart, that was exactly what he had been hoping for all along. The couple entered the living room one after the other and returned to their respective rooms. But before they returned to their rooms, Nangong Quan suddenly grabbed onto Su Yuran and gave her a scare. "What's wrong?" Nangong Quan hugged Su Yuran for a few seconds before he let go. "Go to sleep." Su Yuran's heart raced like it was about to jump out of her throat. It had been a long time since she last felt this way. It wasn't that she didn't admire people when she was in the military, but she only admired them. She never thought about actually getting close to someone. But after being hugged by Nangong Quan, Su Yuran truly felt that she was in a relationship. She was in a relationship. Nangong Quan's embrace was extremely comforting. That night, the couple lay in their own beds, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. They were afraid of the sudden urge, so they tried their best to control themselves. As a result, Su Yuran woke up the next morning with a cold. But she still insisted on taking little Eggshell to school and planned to pick up the two rascals at the Mo family home. But Nangong Quan stopped her. "Take little Eggshell with you, I'll take you there." "But I still need to go to Hyatt Regency." "I'll take you there," Nangong Quan replied smoothly before he pushed Su Yuran into the car. After his daughter and girlfriend settled into their seats, he finally drove off. "I've met Mo Ting before. From my standpoint, I don't want to be enemies with him." It wasn't that Nangong Quan didn't have any hatred in his heart, but he knew that the Mo family wasn't the main culprit. Su Yuran looked at Nangong Quan from the side, and felt that this man was truly magnanimous. At least, if she was in his position, she might not be able to completely let go. Little Eggshell, Daddy is great, right? Su Yuran asked. But, I despise my daddy because he's not handsome enough. Little Eggshell said as she rested her chin on her hand. He's not as handsome as the two boys' daddy. Who said that? Su Yuran immediately argued with Little Eggshell. Nangong Quan was calm and introverted. He looked like a man with a story. On top of that, his appearance was a little wild, so he exuded the elegance of a mature man. This was completely different to Mo Ting's elegance. Big sister, do you think my daddy is more handsome? Your daddy is more manly. At a time like this, Little Eggshell had no idea what manly meant. However, Nangong Quan's words were extremely effective. He had a feeling that this little brat was obviously teasing him. If it weren't for Little Eggshell, he would have already made a move on her. Soon, the three arrived at Hyatt Regency. Tongning stepped out with the two rascals. As she watched Su Yuran personally step out of the car to pick them up, she immediately guessed that there was someone in the car. Is Little Eggshell here today? I have a slight cold, so. Su Yuran explained. It's okay, go ahead, Tongning said as she handed the two kids to Su Yuran. Su Yuran looked at Tongning gratefully. This was one of the things she liked and admired about Tongning. According to Tongning's current status in Beijing, she could treat the people that worked for her in the most arrogant manner. But she never treated or looked down on the people around her. This was probably the most elegant thing that a woman could do. Little Eggshell was very obedient as she naturally gave up her seat to the Mo twins. Meanwhile, as soon as Mo Zishi boarded the car, he chatted with Little Eggshell while Mo Zishi stared at Nangong Quan like an adult. Nangong Quan was surprised that a child could have such a gaze. So he turned around and glanced at Mo Zishi before he said to Su Yuran, "This child is very special." "He is indeed very special," Su Yuran nodded. Su Yuran nodded her head. Zichin doesn't like to talk, but everyone thinks he understands what the adults are thinking. Unbelievable. During this time, Mo Zishi and Little Eggshell got into an argument. At this time, Mo Zichin suddenly stepped in front of Mo Zishi and looked at Little Eggshell cautiously. On the surface, Mo Zishi was the older brother, but there were a lot of times when Mo Zichin was the one protecting him. The most obvious thing was the scar on his left cheekbone not long ago, wasn't it? Soon, the three children entered the school and Nangong Quan led Su Yuran home. However, just as they arrived at the front door, Nangong Quan suddenly grabbed onto Su Yuran's right hand as she unbuckled her seatbelt. What's wrong? Remember to take your medicine, Nangong Quan instructed. Okay, hurry and go to work, Su Yuran nodded her head. Su Yuran nodded her head and took a deep breath. I'll go home, take some medicine and get some sleep. I should be fine after that. Nangong Quan placed his hand on her forehead. Before she could react, he had already stepped out of the car and carried her out. You have a fever. I'm really fine, Su Yuran quickly explained. I used to have a lot of colds in the past. I'll be fine after a while. That was in the past. But you have me now. After speaking, Nangong Quan carried Su Yuran into the living room. Luckily, Mother Su wasn't home. So Nangong Quan headed upstairs and placed Su Yuran on the bed in his room. Did you forget? I live across the street. Let's not talk about it for now. Let's focus on reducing your fever first. Nangong Quan ignored Su Yuran's protests as he pulled out some fever medicine. It'll affect your work. Only now do I know that falling in love can also make people lazy. Nangong Quan pulled out his phone and gave his assistant a phone call. I'll be arriving at the office later today. All he wanted to do was take care of Su Yuran. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.